Chapter 726, World Gate of 10,000 Realms. Twilight approached. After an Exen returned, Guan ceased instructing Shengguan Xiener in her divine skills and sent her away. Guan and an Exen stood shoulder to shoulder at the edge of the cliff, gazing into the distance. An Exen softly said, "Master, that Yuan Luo will probably become a great calamity for the world. Although I expelled him, I could feel his strength and hatred. He harbors an endless supply of terrifying power within him. What do you wish your master to do, kill him?" Guan retorted. Guan had witnessed the battle between Yuan Luo and an Exen. If not for Yuan Luo borrowing the origin power, he would have been no match for an Exen. Defeated this time, Yuan Luo would be deeply agitated and continuously awaken the origin consciousness until he became a true chaos grudge Luo. Yuan Luo's life had its share of sins, yet which immortal cultivator's hands are not stained with blood. He also had his own merits. Whether he is good or bad depends on the perspective. An Exen shook her head and said, "Why would I think like that? How could I outright ask you to kill him? What I want is for you to capture him. I will discipline him and help him let go of his obsessions. I fear he will drag the Qinkuan sect into an abyss of eternal damnation." She knew very well the depths of the waters in the celestial spirit great world. If things went too far, it wouldn't just be Guan, even the celestial gods could intervene, and Yuan Luo wouldn't be able to contend with them. Yuan Luo sought to dominate the world with extreme methods and had a fierce and combative style. He did not tolerate any betrayal, causing the Qinkuan sect disciples to be unable to leave the sect. If they tried to flee, they would be pursued and killed. Over time, an Exen felt the consequences would be dire. She had coexisted with the Qinkuan sect for millions of years and had developed feelings for it. She didn't want the Qinkuan sect to meet a tragic end. Subduing Yuan Luo could bring a dignified close to the sect, and perhaps, with a new sect hierarch, the Qinkuan sect could continue its legacy. No need for that. These trials are part of the Qinkuan sect's fate. They have received too much of our protection and do not need to be sheltered through to the end. Instead, you should think about how to treat the continent's all living beings in the future. Guan replied, quietly choosing to activate the lifespan dojo. Please select the range of your dojo to be established. A prompt appeared, and Guan expanded his mind to cover the entire 9-spirit continent. 100 billion years of lifespan is required. Do you wish to continue? 100 billion years of lifespan. Previously, establishing the dojo required 5 billion years of lifespan. The 9-spirit continents area was over 200 times larger than the current dojo. To Guan, this cost was worth it. Here the Oval Fire. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He chose to continue without hesitation. In an instant, nature's spiritual energy suddenly halted. An Exen noticed this and swallowed her prepared words, frowning as she looked around. This was the dojo. How could something unexpected happen? An Exen looked at Guan, who was smiling, and her anxiety completely eased. "Master, what is going on?" An Exen curiously asked. Guan smiled and said, "I have expanded the dojo to cover the entire continent. In the future, your range of free movement will be even greater." An Exen pursued, "Does this mean that all living beings on the continent will be able to enjoy the spiritual energy and Tao intent of the dojo?" Guan had previously mentioned he would expand the dojo. At that time, she thought it was just an expansion of the range and didn't expect the Tao intent and dense spiritual energy to extend as well. Such immense merit. An Exen could already imagine the future prosperity of the 9-spirit continent. She even began to envision the glory of Wushi's expansion. The current Wuxia had too few people. The spiritual energy of nature only halted for a few brief moments. Soon, the earth began to tremble, and vast spiritual energy gushed forth from deep underground, causing all living beings on the continent to feel tense. Even many great cultivators residing in seclusion in the mountains were alarmed and fled. The seas at the edge of the continent began to fog up, gradually shrouding the continent. The twilight became even more melancholic. Years flew by, and 200,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. The 9-spirit continent had now become a mysterious legend. Over the long years, some sects had tried to explore it, but were repelled by a mysterious force. Occasionally, some cultivators inadvertently intruded but were soon escorted out. These experiences, however, became unforgettable for them and birthed numerous legends about the Wushishi continent, symbolizing hope and representing a paradise, even suggesting the meaning of an immortal land. Crossing the vast fog over the ocean and entering the nine-spirit continent, the magnificent landscape of mountains and rivers unfolded like a painting, with demon birds soaring in the sky. Everywhere one looked, cultivators could be seen flying. Majestic and bustling cities were scattered across the continent, each region forming its own world. Yet, the original area of the Taoist field of the beginningless remained a forbidden ground where other beings were not permitted to trespass. In the courtyard, Guwen stood in front of the artifact refining cauldron, manipulating the Taiching True Fire. Shenzhen sat nearby, practicing her skills, while an Exen stood behind Guwen, reporting the current situation. The number of living beings is increasing. At this rate, trouble will eventually arise. We can't simply expel some of them as they are all related. An Exian spoke softly, frowning slightly. The human world must not be without a ruler. The Emperor of the Nine-Spirit Continent would offer tribute to the beginningless. Currently, the third-generation disciple Nzazai was responsible for liaising with imperial authority. Nzazai's cave mansion was established in the imperial city to serve as a warning to the imperial power. Thus, despite the passing of 200,000 years, the Nine-Spirit Continent had not fallen into chaos. Guwen replied, "No need to worry. In a few days I will establish the World Gate, allowing them to freely travel and explore. Their life and death will be their own responsibility." The World Gate? Can it connect to the myriad worlds? An Exian asked curiously. Yes, it is a Tao treasure. I will use destiny as the screening criterion to prevent external beings from infiltrating through this gate. Gu An's lips curved upward. The World Gate was his proudest creation in recent years. It could connect to the 3,000 great worlds and even some special realms. It was also a formidable Tao treasure, almost impossible for even a Tao extreme Daoyuo immortal to destroy. Master, aren't you afraid of exposing the beginningless? An Exian asked with a smile. Since when has your master ever feared? Guwen responded with a hard tone. Now, he indeed had some confidence. Moreover, the beginningless had no intention or capability of overthrowing the celestial court. What was there to fear? The master and disciple chatted for a while, then an Exen went to summon the third-generation disciples to give a lecture. Having become the primordial Tao Emperor and as the second-generation disciple, she always kept a close watch on the cultivation progress of the third-generation disciples. She hoped that every disciple would possess great strength and not disgrace the Wusher or their master. After an Exen left, Shenzhen opened her eyes and looked at Guwen. Although I have not yet reached the level of primordial Tao Emperor, I am seeing more and more of the scenes regarding that disaster. She was referring to the great contention for the Son of Heaven, which was no secret within the Wusher. Oh, what scenes have you seen this time? Guwen casually asked. He could also see the cause and effect of the great contention for the Son of Heaven, with the figures of numerous immortal gods already appearing in his vision. Zhang Buku, Tian Hao, and Zhu Shi would all be involved, seizing the opportunity to rise during this catastrophe. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 727. The True Immortal. I saw an immensely large black hole appear above the void of the great Tao, from which many evil demons surged out, flying toward the 3,000 great worlds. They looked incredibly terrifying, beyond description, and even in my dream, I felt a sense of despair and suffocation. Shenzhen frowned, recounting the feelings from his previous dream. Guwen was not surprised, for he had witnessed the same scene. Those demons, like Chaos Grudge Luo, originated from the outer heaven chaos. As for why they descended upon the 3,000 great worlds, Guwen had not seen it for now, but he could confirm it was related to the heavenly court, because he saw a thick celestial Tao destiny in that black hole. Shen Zhen continued to speak while Gu Wen was refining treasures, listening intently and occasionally responding. An hour later, Gu Wen left the courtyard alone, walking down the mountain path, admiring the scenery along the way and looking toward outer heaven. The misty immortal court was preparing to intervene in the struggle for the position of Son of Heaven, seeing it as a rare opportunity, prompting Tian Hao to prepare for battle early. Since joining the misty immortal court, Tian Hao had undergone many trials and tribulations, which overall had gone smoothly, making him now one of the most prized prodigies of the misty immortal court. His identity as the reincarnation of the Son of Heaven had not yet been exposed. But in the future struggle for the position of Son of Heaven, Tian Hao would awaken his origin consciousness and revert to the Son of Heaven, though whether he could return to the heavenly court remained uncertain. Looking at Tian Hao, Gu An's eyes reflected the image of An Hao. Although Tian Hao still had him in his heart, Gu An could feel their bond as master and disciple was weakening, the distance growing further. When Tian Hao regains his identity as the Son of Heaven, it will be even harder for them to meet. Time really turns familiar people into strangers. Gu Wen did not feel upset. This change only prompted him to reflect, and he rather enjoyed such a taste. He had raised an eagle, watched it grow, and now saw it soar into the sky. Search * the novel at website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The cause and effect in the world are intertwined, intersecting and diverging, leading to different destinies. Seeing through destiny, enjoying every connection. After looking at Tian Hao, Gu Wen turned to other old acquaintances, such as Jiang Qiong, Li Xiandao, the cultivators of human world peak, and others who had become almost strangers. 1,680,000 years had passed. Of the old friends from back then, less than 1/10 had survived, but those who lived to this day had become individuals of great power, commanding respect. Looking at them, Gu Wen reminisced about the past. With higher cultivation, Gu Wen could see more causes and effects, equating to possessing many memories. Past memories constantly compressed, although never forgotten, they were easily overlooked in daily life. He did not want to forget his path. Ever since breaking through to Xian Qi Primordial Immortal, Gu Wen could feel his state of mind changing. His immense power caused him to gradually become indifferent to many things. The distinction between immortals and mortals was real. Just as mortals cannot empathize with plants and trees, this arose from a fundamental difference. Gu Wen finally understood why heavenly court immortals were so indifferent towards all living beings. Immortal and indestructible, their absolute power allowed them to witness any transformation in the world. To them, everything was meaningless, only alterations in their own status held significance. To Gu Wen, the blooming and wilting flowers along the way symbolized individual lives. Gradually, with each step he took, the surrounding scenery began to change. When he stopped walking, he found himself in a field, golden rice paddies reflecting sunlight, with a village in the distance, and smoke rising softly. Gu Wen turned to look at an elderly farmer working, smiling as he asked, "Old man, you're still working at such an age? Where are your children and grandchildren?" The elderly farmer, dressed in patched clothes, bent over and appeared to be 70 or 80 years old, moving slowly, sweat dripping down his face like tree bark, seemingly unconcerned. Upon hearing Gu Wen's words, he stopped his task, slowly turned to face Gu Wen, his eyes squinted into lines, toothless mouth revealing a kind smile, replied, "Though I'm old, I still have strength. As for my children, they were taken by demons in the mountains years ago. I have a grandson, though. He's studying, aiming to achieve scholarly honors soon. How could he do such heavy work?" Gu Wen nodded slightly upon hearing this. The elderly farmer curiously asked, "Where do you come from, young master?" Having lived for so many years, he had never seen someone as finely dressed as Gu Wen, with such outstanding temperament, resembling an immortal. Of course, even if he were a true immortal, the farmer would not be excited. He had seen through life, ready to embrace the end at any time. Gu Wen smiled, saying, "I come from the east, longing to traverse the world, to see all the scenery in this human world. Passing by here, am a bit tired." "Old man, do you mind if I chat with you?" The old farmer smiled, said, I don't mind. Why not come to my home? Though I have no fine wine or dishes, I can offer you something to quench your thirst and fill your stomach. Guwen took 2 steps forward, sat on a mound, smiling, No need, I'll just sit here and chat with you. The old farmer tried to straighten his bent frame, leaning on his hoe, smilingly watching Guwen. As I traveled, I encountered many immortal cultivation sections. Why don't you let your grandson pursue immortal cultivation but instead scholarly honors? Guwen asked. The old farmer shook his head with a smile, saying, What's good about immortal cultivation? His parents once pursued immortal fate, but sadly, they lacked spirit roots, returning disappointed. They were captured by demons due to their unwillingness to accept this, stealing the demon's treasure. I don't want my grandson to follow their path. After all, dragons give birth to dragons, phoenixes give birth to phoenixes. If my grandson had immortal fate, his parents would not have been rejected by immortal cultivation sections. You seem to have an open perspective. But what does your grandson think? He probably wants to pursue immortal cultivation, but for now, to please me, he's aiming for scholarly honors. He wishes to establish a family and career to prevent our name from being extinguished. Guwen and the old farmer conversed casually, as if discussing mundane matters, with no particular purpose, talking about whatever came to mind. He not only listened but shared his encounters along the journey, making the old farmer marvel at the vastness of the world. After chatting for about an hour, Guwen finally stood up. Standing on the mound, under the sun, he stretched lazily, while the old farmer watched him, smiling without feeling sad about the impending parting. Old man, when your journey ends, we shall meet again. Guwen looked down at the old farmer, smiling softly. The old farmer paused, asking, Are you really an immortal? Guwen replied, Compared to me, you are the true immortal. The old farmer showed no joy or confusion upon hearing this. He continued to wear his kind smile, wiped the sweat from his face, said, Is that so? If true, then that's wonderful. This way, I can bless my grandson with success in scholarly honors. Guwen turned to leave, leaving behind a parting message. Once you become an immortal, you might not care for it anymore. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 728, Great Immortal Divine Essence, Xinyuan Human Venerable. After wandering the human world for half a day, Guwen went to the Taizong dynasty as a guest. Li Xiandao still sat firmly on the emperor's throne. In the hearts of the people of the Taizong dynasty, he already represented Songtian, and no one dared to challenge his authority. Perhaps due to his friendship with Guwen, Li Xiandao had always been considerate and loving towards his people. Although there were internal conflicts within the Taizong dynasty, the general populace remained loyal to him. Guwen could hear people's inner voices and see through anyone's essence. Yet he never judged a person's worth based on their inner thoughts. Everyone's heart has a dark side. As long as Li Xiandao did not commit any great evil, Guwen could tolerate it. Recently, Li Xiandao had his own troubles, not for the affairs of the Taizong dynasty, but for his own cultivation. He too had reached the Zizai immortal realm and needed to undergo the reincarnation tribulation to advance further. However, this tribulation was not a matter of a day or two. Once he embarked on reincarnation, the world would certainly be thrown into chaos. His princes numbered over 100,000, and many had already gained great notoriety. If he disappeared, it would surely cause significant trouble. To this, Guwen could only guide him in pursuing the path of the primordial Dao Emperor. Li Xiandao had previously obtained the chance of the primordial Dao Emperor by accident but gave it up due to insufficient comprehension. Now, hearing Guwen personally say that the path of the primordial Dao Emperor was the correct one, he had no choice but to reassess this opportunity. Guwen only guided and did not go all out to assist Li Xiandao. He had already helped enough. Without him, Li Xiandao would not have reached where he was today. If Li Xiandao could not hold on to imperial power, it meant it was destined to be given up. Gu An's days were so simple, planting and harvesting, playing musical instruments, practicing calligraphy, painting, and occasionally visiting old friends. Though plain, he did not find it tedious and fully enjoyed this kind of life. 10 years passed by in the blink of an eye. It was near noon on this particular day, and Zizai led a man up the mountain toward Guan's courtyard. Along the way, third-generation disciples Lu Zidao and Li Qing happened to be descending. Upon seeing Zizai, the two immediately greeted him, and Zizai nodded without saying much and continued up the mountain with his companion. Lu Zidao and Li Qing fixed their gaze on the person behind Zizai. They had never seen him before, but his profound aura indicated he was no ordinary being. After a while, Zizai led the man into the courtyard and respectfully bowed to Guan. Guan was lying on a rocking chair reading a book. He spoke softly, "You may leave." And Zizai immediately retreated. Shenzhen, who was meditating in front of the artifact refining cauldron, turned his head and gazed at Tai Immortal Monarch. Standing beside Guan, Tai Immortal Monarch had reverted to his true form. The Dharma aspect behind his head swayed slightly, exuding the demeanor of an immortal god. Guan flipped over, tucked the book into his robe, and smiled at Tai Immortal Monarch. He asked, "How about it? Do you still think about your grandson?" Tai Immortal Monarch's expression was indifferent, vastly different from the old farmer he appeared as 10 years ago. It was impossible to associate the two. Having gone through so many lifetimes, how could I hold onto attachments in each one? Tai Immortal Monarch replied. He paused and said, "Before becoming an immortal monarch, I had already experienced countless reincarnations. If one intends to erase my divine nature through reincarnation, it is impossible, not even I can change it." Guan stood up, turned his head towards the courtyard entrance, and motioned for Tai Immortal Monarch to follow. Tai Immortal Monarch said nothing and followed Guan. They did not walk far, merely to the cliff outside the courtyard. Guan looked at the rainbow between the distant mountains and said, "You came to this world because you favored the Son of Heaven reincarnated here, right? Now, with the 3,000 great worlds about to face a struggle among the sons of heaven, yet the one you chose is still caught in the red dust. What do you think about this? A struggle among sons of heaven?" Tai Immortal Monarch raised his eyebrows, unsurprised, and sneered, "Those two sons of heaven indeed couldn't suppress their ambitions." Guan turned to him, waiting for him to continue. "Those two sons of heaven are the great immortal divine Yuan and Xian Yuan human venerable. Their cultivation levels are not among the best, but their mothers are favored by the celestial emperor. Lacking in talent, they thought to play a game with the 3,000 great worlds. They are overconfident. In my view, neither stands a chance." Tai Immortal Monarch snorted coldly, clearly holding those two sons of heaven in disdain. Guan asked with a smile, "Then what do you think of the Son of Heaven you wish to support? Does he have hope of becoming the celestial emperor?" Tai Immortal Monarch responded, "No son of heaven can become the celestial emperor. The reason I chose him is that I believe he will eventually return to the celestial court and be favored by his majesty. Eventually, he will become the war god of the celestial court. This is my opportunity. If that's the case, then stay in this world. I will pave the way for you in the future." As he spoke, Guan took off a string of wooden tokens from his waist, the transformed forms of the 72 immortals of Jin Dong, and tossed them to Tai Immortal Monarch. Tai Immortal Monarch looked at Guan with deep meaning in his eyes and cautiously asked, "Do you intend to enter the celestial court, or do you have other plans?" Guan was extremely powerful and of mysterious origins, so he had to be cautious. Even if he offended Guan, he could rely on the celestial court's destiny to remain immortal, but if Guan intended to oppose the celestial court, it would cost him his life. Immortal gods might compete for their own interests, but when it came to the safety of the celestial court, they would all stand united. This was one of the functions of the celestial Tao destiny. Rest assured, I have no intention of opposing the celestial court. Tian Hao and I merely have a coincidental connection. During your reincarnation, his immortal god mentor, Eternal Life Venerable, came and offered me a chance to ascend to immortality, which I gave to another of my disciples. Of course, you can leave now if you wish. It's entirely up to you, Guwen said with a smile. With Yang Jian's ascension to immortality, his conflict with the celestial court was less significant. Once Tai Immortal Monarch returned and understood the situation, he would probably not dare to oppose him further. Of course, his confidence also came from his own cultivation level. Though he couldn't say he was invincible, there weren't many in the celestial court who were stronger than him. Tai Immortal Monarch smiled bitterly upon hearing this. He believed Guwen's words and merely thought his previous actions were too obsessive, or more accurately, too arrogant. I am willing to stay, and the 72 immortals of Jin Dong will remain as well to see what we can leave behind for this human world. Tai Immortal Monarch said, not out of sudden kindness but knowing that with a terrifying great power like Guwen here, the celestial spirit great world was bound to transcend the 3,000 great worlds and become a higher plane. He was willing to add glory to this and show goodwill to Guwen. Guwen did not reject this. Looking ahead at the mountains and rivers, he smiled and said, "Look, is this human world's scenery really so inferior to the heavens?" Tai Immortal Monarch looked into the distance and replied, "Heaven and earth are the most perfect creations of the great Tao, each possessing its own beauty. But immortal gods live too long, and everything eventually loses its novelty. It's not just immortal gods. Every Taoist feels the same. Don't you think so?" Here the Oval Fire. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 729. Walking ahead of everyone, the words of Tai Immortal Monarch drifted away with the gentle breeze, leaving no trace in the heavens and earth. Following his gaze, Guwen softly laughed and said, "Perhaps when you master your divinity, you can reach a higher level." These words caused a change in Tai Immortal Monarch's expression. The two then fell silent, quietly gazing into the distance. After a stick of incense's time passed, Tai Immortal Monarch finally bid farewell to Guwen, who did not ask him to stay. Only after Tai Immortal Monarch left 9 Spirit Continent did Guwen turn toward his own courtyard. With this turn, a new chapter in the human world began. 1,000,000 years passed in the blink of an eye, like the vast sea rushing by, never to return. This year, Guwen's lifespan once again broke through to 1,000,000,000,000 years. He utilized this lifespan breakthrough to teleport to other places for further breakthroughs, but after spending nearly all but 3,000,000,000,000 years of his lifespan, he only reached the late stage of the Xian-Qi primordial immortal realm, still far from the perfection realm. The late stage of the Xian-Qi primordial immortal realm is vastly different from the early stage. Guwen felt reborn, and reaching his current height while still sensing such a gap demonstrated the enormous disparity between the late and early stages. Guwen returned to his dojo but did not directly go to his residence. Instead, he wandered around 9 Spirit Continent. The towering world gate pierced the clouds, visible even from thousands of miles away. As Guwen walked along the mountain path, he could see it from afar, like the most majestic peak in the human world, showcasing its strength. 9 Spirit Continent was isolated from the world, with a rich atmosphere of immortal cultivation. Even the strongest sects in the human world could not compare. With the spiritual energy and Tao intent within the dojo, many free immortals were born over the 1,000,000 years, all venturing to other worlds through the World Gate. Of course, not only free immortals could enter the World Gate, anyone with the will could freely enter, keeping the continent from becoming overcrowded. Over the long years, outsiders occasionally intruded into 9 Spirit Continent, but the 9 Spirit Dynasty had defenses at the continent's edge, preventing ordinary people from sneaking in. Recently, a powerful free immortal managed to infiltrate. Guwen was heading towards this free immortal, his eyes already reflecting the figure. "Indeed, you've grown up and can manage on your own." Guwen sighed in his heart, the breeze stirring his white coat and black shirt. In his good mood after breaking through, he decided to lend a hand. He leisurely advanced, with flowers blooming underfoot with each step, bringing vitality along the way. After half a cup of tea's time, Guan passed through a forest and arrived at a lake surrounded by mountains. His gaze fell on a small pavilion in the center of the lake, where a black-clad man stood, hands behind his back, staring at the lotus flowers on the lake, lost in thought. This man was none other than Li Ya's disciple, Li Xianyu. The grown-up Li Xianyu already had the demeanor of an accomplished sage, paired with this picturesque scenery, resembling a human world immortal. "Why are you here enjoying the view alone?" A voice entered Li Xianyu's ears, startling him. He turned abruptly and upon seeing Guan in the courtyard, his Dao heart trembled. Fear turned into joy. "A master uncle?" Li Xianyu trembled all over, unsure where to place his hands. Guan smiled gently and asked, "How is your master? Has he been well lately?" Upon hearing this, Li Xianyu knelt down directly, gritting his teeth as he said, "Master uncle, my master has gone mad. Please, you must save him." "How did he go mad?" Guan was not surprised and calmly asked, without helping Li Xianyu up. Li Xianyu took a deep breath and said, "Ever since he was defeated by Qin Chuan, he seemed to enter a demonic state, obsessively cultivating the sword Dao and challenging sword cultivators everywhere, with both victories and losses. His obsession offended many, and 1,000 years ago he was defeated by a renowned sword cultivator, breaking his Dao heart. Since then he has been in prolonged seclusion. After much difficulty I found him a few years ago, but he was muttering nonsensically and even attacked me. 'Master uncle, my master always said you two were closest. You must help him.'" After listening, Gu Ennis' expression remained unchanged, though he had seen everything about Li Ya unfold. If Guan hadn't saved him during the battle 1,000 years ago, Li Ya would have died. He had only secretly helped and did not punish the opponent because Li Ya had initiated the challenge and wouldn't let it go. Their cultivation levels were similar, but there was a gap in sword Dao achievement. With the slightest mistake, disaster could follow. Guan took out a small wooden sword from his pocket and handed it to Li Xianyu, saying, "Take this sword back to your master." "What is this?" Li Xianyu took the wooden sword and hesitantly asked, his heart beating faster. Having been here for some time, he had no idea how to find Guan, as there were too many great powers on this continent, making it hard for him to move. Little did he know that his entry was permitted by the Wushiji disciple. As soon as he sneaked in, and Zizai told an Xen, who deduced his connection with Li Ya through cause and effect, and finally informed Guan, "You just need to give this sword to him." Guan said, then turned to look at the lake. Li Xianyu stood up, carefully keeping the wooden sword. He then looked at Guan and cautiously asked, "Master uncle, what is your attitude towards my master? Why won't he come to you?" Without turning back, Guan looked at the lake and said, "My attitude has never changed, only his thoughts have become chaotic." Li Xianyu relaxed, always feeling that Guan cared about his master, but his master had overthought things and was too concerned with face. If his master could set aside his pride and follow master uncle in cultivation, he would undoubtedly become the greatest sword cultivator in the world. "Xianyu, we've met twice now. You can call me master uncle, and I acknowledge you. I can sense the bond between you and your master, more like father and son than master and disciple. Although I don't think you'll abandon him, I still want to ask you to take good care of him," Guan said, turning to Li Xianyu with a grateful smile. Li Xianyu nodded solemnly, saying, "I will. Without my master, I would have died long ago. I will never abandon him in my life. Your master is combative and proud, but his chivalrous spirit is rare in the world. Frankly, I envy his life, carefree and free. Have you not realized he's always maintained his true self?" Gu Ennis' words made Li Xianyu think deeply. He realized that despite recent changes, before his obsession, his master was always carefree and somewhat unorthodox, just as he had been in his childhood. Perhaps one day, your master will surpass everyone. Do not tell him this, as it is a heavenly secret I'm revealing to you. Sar the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Gu An's mysterious smile made Li Xianyu's imagination run wild. He sensed that Guan implied his master would become his greatest fortune and support. However, Li Xianyu couldn't help but ask, "Will he surpass you?" He knew his master had always wanted to surpass his master uncle, which was why he never sought his help. Faced with this inquiry, Guin simply smiled and did not answer. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 730. Not competing for immortal gods. Since the dissolution of the Tao court, chaos in the human world has been continuous. Even though more than 1,000,000 years have passed, no sect has been able to unify the world. However, the overall power of the celestial spirit great world has been constantly increasing. This is evident from the heavenly Tao light layer that envelopes the celestial spirit great world, which has become increasingly brilliant, extending its illumination over a wider range of the universe. The names of the 100 sects in the human world have gradually been eliminated by time, and the world's layout is ushering in new changes. In the context of contention among numerous heroes, the gap between sects has begun to widen. 9 sects have emerged, becoming the supreme Taoist lineages in the hearts of the people. In the years that followed, Tai Immortal Monarch and the 72 Immortals of Jin Dong widely dispersed immortal fates in the human world, promoting the development of immortal cultivation techniques. Meanwhile, in the 3,000 great worlds of outer heaven, traces of immortal gods have started to appear, and the prelude to the struggle for the Son of Heaven is brewing. Taiwei Great World. In a bright and grand palace, Zhu Shi, dressed in majestic golden robes, sat in the principal seat. Her hair was coiled high, bound beneath a holy crown, her expression severe, with an oppressive aura of indifference to all living beings emanating from her brow. Many cultivators stood in the hall, all wearing the same large robes, each with a dignified and martial bearing. An elderly white-haired cultivator stepped forward, cupped his hands in salute to Zhu Shi, and said, "Your Majesty, although the words of that immortal god cannot be fully trusted, we must still exercise caution. If such a catastrophe truly befalls the 3,000 great worlds, our holy court must prepare in advance." Upon these words, the others in the hall voiced their agreement one after another. Since the mysterious supreme entity obliterated the divine court, Zhu Shi seized the opportunity to establish the holy court. Although it has gone through many tribulations, the Holy Court has now finally managed to barely grasp the Taiwei Great World and can be called the master of Taiwei Great World. Not long ago, a star monarch descended, claiming to come from the celestial court, seeking heavenly secrets, and then divulged the struggle for the Son of Heaven. This matter greatly shocked the nobility of the Holy Court. Zhu Shi sent them back to digest it individually, and only after a few days did they begin to discuss it. Now, most holy officials believe that this matter cannot be taken lightly, and one must be sent to outer heaven to investigate if other great thousand worlds have received the news. Concurrently, they must quickly control the Taiwei Great World. The Taiwei Great World is indeed too deep. Even though Zhu Shi has already united many world clans, there are still many forces in the Taiwei Great World that make the Holy Court wary. As Zhu Shi listened to the minister's discussions, her face remained expressionless, but she felt a headache and helplessness. After finally stabilizing the situation, an even greater calamity emerged. As for whether the struggle for the Son of Heaven was real, she saw the threat of the celestial court. The cultivation level of that star monarch was unfathomable. Even if what he said was false, the Holy Court would still have to face him. Even though the current Holy Court controlled most of the world, she truly lacked confidence in facing the star monarch. But she knew that she must make a decision and take action. The struggle for the Son of Heaven indeed cannot be ignored, but the great plans for the world also must be executed on the path. Zhu Shi spoke slowly. As she spoke, everyone fell silent, waiting for her orders. She began to issue orders one by one, mobilizing the overall strength of the Holy Court. The holy officials in the hall took their orders successively. As one sacred decree after another was issued, a chilling atmosphere spread over the grand hall. Esya the novel, at website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. After a long time, all the holy officials left, and Zhu Shi stood up, disappearing into thin air within the grand hall. The next second, she appeared in a bamboo forest and stepped toward the depths of the bamboo forest. As she proceeded, a pavilion surrounded by cyan bamboo appeared in front of her. In front of the pavilion, there was a small courtyard planted with various flowers and plants. Before she got close, a fragrant scent penetrated Zhu Zai's nose. She walked straight into the courtyard and stopped in front of the main door, saying, "Senior, I have a matter for which I must seek your help." "Does it concern the celestial court?" An ancient voice came from within the pavilion, causing Zhu Shi to raise her eyebrows as a strange light flickered in her eyes. "That's right, Senior anticipated it?" Zhu Shi asked curiously. When that Han Sha immortal monarch descended to the mortal world before, he mentioned the struggle for the Son of Heaven. He was acting on behalf of a certain Son of Heaven, having the divine court collect living beings to refine a demon god body. The demon god body possesses power comparable to an immortal god, and it is an important piece for that Son of Heaven. The ancient voice sounded again, with no trace of emotion in its tone. Zhu Shi had already speculated about this. That immortal god making the divine court capture so many mortal spirits was clearly preparing for something major. Now, the news of the struggle for the Son of Heaven had come, and it was evidently related. The struggle for the Son of Heaven is unstoppable. It is both a crisis and an opportunity. I know why you have come. Since the struggle for the Son of Heaven is about to begin, I will support you. But you need to promise me one thing. Upon hearing this, Zhu Shi immediately asked, "What is it?" The senior in the pavilion was no ordinary person. He was once the master of the divine court and had lived for an untold number of years. Disapproving of the divine court and immortal god's actions, he left the divine court. Meeting him was a stroke of fate for Zhu Shi. Although the senior had never really helped her directly, he had provided much intelligence, which allowed her to avoid many troubles. If the Son of Heaven you support wins, you cannot compete for the title of immortal god. The ancient voice said slowly. Zhu Shi felt puzzled and asked, "If we do not compete for the title of immortal god, why should we support the Son of Heaven? Do you have any other options?" Zhu Shi fell silent. The star monarch personally came. She and the holy court probably had no choice but to comply. "I have never experienced the struggle for the Son of Heaven, but I once saw some records in a certain ruin on the path of the Great Tao. The struggle for the Son of Heaven has no true winner, especially for all living beings. Getting too close to immortal gods during such a catastrophe is not a good thing. I do not want the future master of heaven and earth to lead Taiwei to its doom. You should remember the war 1,000,000 years ago. The divine court, as powerful as it was, could not stand against a single individual, just as the Great Tao itself. The 3,000 great worlds seem vast and boundless, but in the eyes of the immortal gods, they might be of little significance." The words of the ancient voice made Zhu Zai's face turn grim. She had long felt the arrogance of the immortal gods. The other's words made her sense a great crisis. Upon confirming that the struggle for the Son of Heaven was real, she had also developed an ambition to become an immortal god. If she felt this way, what of others? Once the struggle for the Son of Heaven begins, and the immortal gods promise ascension, her control over the holy court would be difficult to maintain. Zhu Shi stood before the door, contemplating for a long time. She took a deep breath and said, "Senior, I promise you." Clang. The door opened, and a token flew toward Zhu Shi. It was a green jade token, emitting a golden light, rotating autonomously. "Take this token to the ancient god Shengzhou and meet that supreme. He will know what to do." Upon hearing this, Zhu Zai's face showed joy. She knew what the supreme of ancient god Shengzhou represented. Not only was the supreme's divine skills vast, but his disciples were also innumerable and widespread throughout the world. With his support, the holy court would undoubtedly be able to completely control the Taiwei Great World. "Thank you, Senior." If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 731. The Celestial Emperor's only mount time flies like an arrow, 500,000 years have passed since Li Xianyu left. Within the Taoist field of the beginningless, Guan sat by the lake painting. What he painted was a landscape, but his thoughts drifted outside of the nine-spirit continent. Li Ya had shown extraordinary comprehension in the ways of the primordial Tao Emperor, achieving such a level in just 500,000 years. During this period he hadn't sparred with others, instead immersing himself in his cultivation. Even though he remained low-key, his disciple Li Xianyu, on the other hand, stirred up trouble. Li Xianyu fell in love with a woman, but that woman had been betrothed by her family. She left her family to escape the engagement and then coincidentally met Li Xianyu. The two decided to face the pressure from her family together, but by a twist of fate, the woman was forced to her death within her family. Now, not only did her family want to kill Li Xianyu, but also the family that she had been betrothed to sought his death to avenge their honor. Both families were ancient and formidable, each boasting ancestors at the Taoist collection Freedom Immortal Realm. Guan watched silently. He wasn't worried about Li Xianyu getting into trouble because Li Ya would intervene. The upcoming battle for his disciples' rescue would see Li Ya exhibit a sword Tao that would shock the world, establishing him as the foremost sword cultivator in the world. In the future, he would also become the preeminent great cultivator known to the world in the celestial spirit great world. Li Ya would glorify the primordial Tao Emperor, making it a target for future cultivators to aspire to. Besides Li Ya, Guan also kept an eye on others. He saw Zhang Buku following the celestial calming god descending into the void between the 3,000 great worlds, deeply focused on his cultivation. With the assistance of the Taiching Golden Immortal, Zhu, she was also gradually gaining control over the Taiwei Great World. The Taiwei Great World had deep foundations. With Zhu Zai's power, he originally couldn't have become the master of heaven and earth, but because the Taiching annihilated the divine court, causing those great cultivators to have reservations, fearing Taking's return to create more trouble, they wanted to use the holy court as a shield, providing Zhu Shi the opportunity. When the struggle for the Son of Heaven began, these ancient powers would launch an offensive against the holy court to regain old powers. Of course, that was future talk. For now, Zhu Shi could remain the world's master for a long period. Guan, while observing the outer heaven, continued painting, each stroke imbued with Tao intent, making everything in the painting appear vivid, with the plants and flowers seeming to sway in the wind, as if they genuinely existed. The blood prison great saint approached Guan with a fawning smile, saying, "Master, the talents from the nine-spirit continent are increasing. Many people are seeking us out. When do you think we can open the gates of Wuxia?" Guan replied nonchalantly, "Why? Do you also wish to take in disciples?" "Not me. I'm your mount. How can I take in disciples? It would mess up the generational hierarchy in the future, creating significant trouble. I just feel that Wuxia should expand, especially since the nine-spirit continent has developed a solid foundation over these years." The blood prison great saint laughed. The stronger Wuxia became, the more he would benefit. Thinking of numerous Wuxia disciples admiring him made him excited. He even had bigger ambitions. He aspired to become the sole mount of the celestial emperor. Guan said softly, "Once this gate is opened, it will be like a surging river that cannot be stopped." "Master, why block it? If you're afraid of trouble, you can let an Xin and us manage it. If you're worried about the younger generations causing chaos, you can establish strict sect rules," the blood prison great saint asked, puzzled. He never considered that Guan was wary of the celestial court. In his heart, Guan was the strongest, and Wuxi's distance from the celestial court was unfathomable. Besides, there were many sects more powerful than Wuxia in the world, yet they hadn't faced divine retribution. Guan was also pondering over problems. Though he always said he didn't want to establish a force, in reality he continuously took steps towards it. Moreover, he couldn't always shield his disciples. It was time for them to stand on their own. Seeing Guan stay silent, the blood prison great saint stopped speaking and gazed at his painting. This painting. The blood prison great saint's eyes lit up. Though the painting depicted the scenery ahead, he saw the vast 3,000 great Tao within it. The rivers of Tao surged, ceaselessly flowing, like a kaleidoscope of myriad scenes before his eyes. Guwen stopped his brush and handed the brush to the blood prison great saint. "You will finish the next part of the painting and then show it to me." Leaving these words behind, Guwen turned and left, the blood prison great saint holding the brush, his eyes filled with anticipation. He immediately forgot about Wushi's expansion, focusing solely on painting. Guwen walked into the mountains and arrived at the other end of the human world. Human World Peak, heaven-defining peak. Sir the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Over 3 million years had passed, and he remained the peak master of heaven-defining peak. He hadn't intervened much in Human World Peak, and hence, Human World Peak had not become a top major sect of the present age. The strongest of Human World Peak was merely at the free immortal realm. Fortunately, the peak master Yongyan Taoist monarch had no desire for supremacy, only wishing to consolidate the Taoist lineage. Precisely due to this ideology, time passed quickly for Human World Peak. Guwen had just arrived when Yongyan Taoist monarch appeared in his courtyard. "Peak master, you've been waiting for me?" While picking medicinal herbs, Guwen asked. Yongyan Taoist monarch couldn't catch his presence, but could perceive the movements within the courtyard. Of course, this was also because Guwen wasn't deliberately hiding. He had countless ways to prevent Yongyan Taoist monarch from noticing his arrival. Yongyan Taoist monarch donned a white Taoist robe, exuding an immortal aura. His smile was kind and approachable. Within Human World Peak, he was deeply loved by the disciples, who all believed him to be a good person. "Indeed, I have encountered some confusion recently and wish to seek your guidance," Yongyan Taoist monarch said with a joyful smile. Guwen returned once a month, and over time, the two had become friends, at least that's what Yongyan Taoist monarch thought. Since knowing Guwen, he had always found him mysterious, suspecting his cultivation was exceedingly high. By now, he even thought Guwen might be a Taoist collection free immortal, as even the free immortals in their sect couldn't detect Guwen's movements. To him, a Taoist collection free immortal was an immense existence, although there were still the profound Yuan free immortal, heaven-encompassing free immortal in the world. As for the supporting Tao sword venerable, that was for him an unimaginable legend. Guwen didn't stop his hands, casually asking, "What confusion would I be capable of resolving?" Yongyan Taoist monarch laughed. "It's about the primordial Tao emperor. Didn't I mention before that I obtained an opportunity related to the primordial Tao emperor? I intended to give it to you, but you refused. I believe you are the primordial Tao emperor, so your Tao practice is unfathomable, not concerned with the primordial Tao emperor's opportunity." Guwen didn't respond. The opportunity related to the primordial Tao emperor wasn't given by him to Yongyan Taoist monarch. With the continuous emergence of primordial crystals across the 3,000 great worlds, the celestial spirit great world had them too, and Yongyan Taoist monarch had acquired one. One could say Yongyan Taoist monarch indeed had no small amount of fortune. "Alright, I haven't achieved the primordial Tao emperor either, I just explored it earlier than you." Guwen responded helplessly. Yongyan Taoist monarch smiled even more. "As expected, you are hidden in the Human World Peak, probably to better achieve enlightenment, right? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 732, Xian Qi Primordial Immortal Realm Perfection. Regarding Yongyan Daojun's probing, Guwen didn't deny it. He continued gathering medicinal herbs, and Yongyan Daojun wasn't in a hurry, following behind him, chatting about the recent affairs of Human World Peak. Although Guwen never participated in Human World Peak's decisions, Yongyan Daojun liked to tell him these things, not with any special purpose, but just to deepen their relationship and have something to talk about. After Guwen finished gathering the medicinal herbs, he followed Yongyan Daojun to his dojo. This lecture continued for 4 days. When Guwen left, Yongyan Daojun was still in the state of reincarnation projection. This guy didn't bother to guard against him at all, making Guwen shake his head and chuckle. Giving a lecture to Yong Yen Daojun was just a small episode in Gu N's life, hardly making any impact, but through Yong Yen Daojun's opportunity, he could sense the development level of the primordial Tao Emperor. If there were no upheavals in the future, the primordial Tao Emperor would surely reach a level comparable to or even surpassing the Taoist Emperor. The stronger the primordial Tao Emperor's fortune, the more benefits it would bring to Guan as well. If the primordial Tao Emperor's fortune were destroyed, it wouldn't harm him a bit, but if he died and the primordial Tao Emperor's fortune remained, he could come back to life through the primordial Tao Emperor's fortune. This was similar to the Heavenly Court's fortune. For Guan, the next major event was to break through to the perfect realm of Xian Qi Primordial Immortal, and he was very much looking forward to it. Unknowingly, breaking through a minor realm has become as challenging as breaking through a major realm. Guan walked in the forest, thinking this way. His understanding of the primordial Tao fruit was getting deeper and deeper, feeling the profundity of the great Tao. Although the Xian Qi Primordial Immortal still carried the name of an immortal, it had actually surpassed the essence of an immortal. Becoming an immortal was a process of comprehending the great Tao, while the Xian Qi Primordial Immortal itself was equivalent to the great Tao. So far, apart from the one in the Supreme Origin Forest and the mysterious bones buried in the desperate celestial tomb, he hadn't felt the aura of other Xian Qi Primordial Immortals. Perhaps the Xian Qi Primordial Immortals had already merged with the great Tao, omnipresent and hard to trace. Guan pondered while walking forward. Since Liya became the primordial Tao Emperor and made a name for himself, 3 more primordial Tao Emperors had appeared in the celestial spirit great world, not counting the Wushiji disciples. The emergence of the primordial Tao Emperors completely changed the structure of the human world, with the 9 major sects all starting to pursue them, and traveling beyond the outer heaven became the new pursuit of the immortal cultivators of the new era. In the outer void, it was easier to comprehend the great Tao, which would help them seek greater opportunities. In the blink of an eye, another 1,000,000 years passed. Among the second-generation disciples of the Taoist field of the beginningless, an Exen, blood prison great saint, Tianhong Emperor, celestial demon child, and LV Xian had all successively reached the level of Taoist Zhongzhizai Immortal, with the weakest at the Zizai Immortal realm. And the number of third-generation disciples kept growing, present in all realms. This year, just after the Spring Festival, Guan went for a breakthrough, and including the round trip, it consumed nearly 800 trillion years of lifespan, successfully reaching the perfection realm of Xian Qi Primordial Immortal. Upon reaching the perfection realm, Guan experienced a comprehensive improvement, far beyond his imagination regarding the gap between the late stage and the perfection. He felt that it was almost impossible for the late stage of the Xian Qi Primordial Immortal to defeat the perfection realm of the Xian Qi Primordial Immortal. Now, the Celestial Court was already within his sight. Although the Celestial Court's fortunes still concealed many areas inside, the Celestial Court no longer appeared mysterious to him. The number of Heavenly Court Immortals was indeed terrifying, and the presence in various realms far exceeded his expectations. Not to mention the Xian Qi Primordial Immortals, the Heavenly Court had over 100 Dao Extreme Daluo Immortals, and the number of Miaojin Daluo Immortals surpassed 10,000, which was simply absurd. There was a palace that made him feel uneasy, and his instincts told him that approaching it would result in something extremely dreadful. The plaque of the palace bore 4 large characters. Palace of the Pole Star. The Treasure Hall of the Celestial Emperor. Seeing this treasure hall, Guan knew that he had no correlation with the Celestial Emperor. Feeling the aura of the highest absolute, he could clearly perceive that the other party was his reincarnation body, everything visible to the true one's eyes. From the feelings the Palace of the Pole Star gave him, he knew he not only had no relation with the Celestial Emperor, but it was also impossible for his reincarnation body to become the Son of Heaven. The strength of the Celestial Emperor was exceedingly terrifying, and just the remnants of his aura could isolate all cause and effect. Guan could conclude that the Celestial Emperor's cultivation level far surpassed the Xian Qi Primordial Immortal. Fortunately, the Celestial Emperor was not inside the Celestial Court. Although many areas of the Celestial Court were obscured by fortune, If the celestial emperor descended, it would be as dazzling as the midday sun, impossible to ignore. The aura of the celestial emperor inside the palace of the Polestar was already scalding enough. With the celestial emperor present, the hegemony of the celestial court could not be shaken. Thus, Guin felt that the struggle for the Son of Heaven was so laughable. The Son of Heaven could never replace the celestial emperor. Of course, the sons of heaven might be vying for the celestial emperor's favor. Absolute invincibility and eternal life? What kind of mindset would such an existence have after experiencing all changes? How did he view the 3,000 great worlds and the 3,000 great Tao? Guin was full of curiosity about the celestial emperor's perspective. With this curiosity, he arrived at a lake within the Taoist field of the beginningless, where he liked to fish. Just as he sat down on his usual stone chair, a figure descended from the sky, landing behind him and respectfully saluted him. It was none other than Tianhong Emperor. Tianhong Emperor had fully awakened his immortal god memory, his previous identity being Tianhong Star Lord, having no relation with Tai Immortal Monarch, but related to Profound Star Immortal Monarch who previously wanted to preach. Profound Star Immortal Monarch was very clever. After his failure, he did not appear again and has not been involved in the celestial spirit great world since. Master, now that I have fully awakened my immortal god identity, the heavenly court's fortune will soon return, and I fear I cannot stay in the Taoist field of the beginningless any longer. Tianhong Emperor said with a worried expression. Once the heavenly court's fortune infiltrated, the Taoist field of the beginningless would be entirely exposed to the heavenly court. He knew his master wouldn't allow anyone to pry into the dojo, not even the heavenly court immortals. S.E. the Novelier. N.T. website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Rather than being expelled by his master, he decided it would be better to leave voluntarily. Over the years of cultivating in the Taoist field of the beginningless, he gained much, and even recalling with his identity of Tianhong Star Lord, it was a great opportunity, so he was full of gratitude to Guin. When you return, I don't expect you to show mercy to all living beings, but do not harm them either. Immortal gods need the worship of all living beings. Having received such incense offerings, they ought to protect them. Guin faced away from Tianhong Emperor, speaking leisurely. Over the years, Tai Immortal Monarch and the 72 Immortals of Jin Dong had been widely disseminating opportunities, also seeking the incense offerings of the mortal spirits, resulting in many divine statues and temples of theirs appearing in the human world. Tianhong Emperor replied, I will definitely remember. No matter how much time passes, you will always be my master. He wasn't arrogant because of his immortal god status, for his master was more formidable than all the immortal gods he knew. Perhaps only the legendary celestial Tao Venerable could compare to his master. Go! Guin didn't say much more. They were not mortals. Even in case of eternal goodbye, there was no need for many words. Some bonds could be felt even without words. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 733. The unfathomable Wuxia Emperor Tianhong's departure caused quite a stir within Wuxia. After all, he was the only one who could compete with an Xin and the Blood Prison Great Saint. Not even LV Xian could surpass him. Guin did not hide his true origin either. He revealed his identity as an immortal god, allowing Wuxiji disciples to formally come into contact with the celestial court, a time-honored ruler standing upon the 3,000 great Tao. Immortal god reincarnation. Second-generation and third-generation disciples were stunned, and an Xin shared her knowledge of the celestial court with them, ensuring a deeper understanding. Knowing that some Wuxiji disciples had ascended to immortality, the disciples within the dojo were even more thrilled. They felt that Wuxia was omnipotent, capable of achieving immortality and roaming the heavens. At the same time, they began to speculate more about Guin. Even after millions of years of cultivation within Wuxia, no one knew Guin's origins, including an Xin and celestial demon child. See to shovel fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Gu-en could hear the disciples' conjectures about him. He did not care, however, the more the disciples revered him, the better it was. At the very least, it prevented any chaos. After Emperor Tianhong's departure, an Xian approached Gu-en again, asking whether to open the sect widely, but Gu-en refused. However, he did ease a bit, allowing disciples to take on apprentices. From the second generation and onward, each disciple could only take one apprentice, and should the apprentice commit evil, the master would also be held accountable. One person taking one apprentice seemed like a small number, but generations down the line, Wuxia was bound to grow stronger. Shortly after Gu-en eased up, within less than 10 years, the first fourth-generation disciple was born. Gu-en was indifferent to the fourth-generation disciples and did not visit them in person. He prepared to hand over the major responsibilities to an Xian, preferring not to bother with trivial matters. An Xian did not monopolize authority. Instead, she let her eldest disciple, Zizai, manage many affairs. Zizai often sighed, bearing the name Zizai, free, yet he did not feel free. Of course, he was merely expressing himself. He was quite satisfied with his current life, having found his own worth. Wuxia was gradually becoming stronger, and the world's various sects were doing the same. Observing the sects gave insight into the entire world, as the celestial spirit great world was also rapidly developing. With the assistance of immortal gods and guidance from primordial Tao Emperor, the great thousand worlds' celestial fortunes naturally soared. 30,000 years passed. Compared to the rapidly changing outside world, the transformations within 9 spirit continent were not as swift. On this day, early in the morning, 2 figures passed through layers of mist, entering 9 spirit continent. They were Li Ya and Li Xianyu. Li Ya was still dressed in black, his long hair tied behind him, with 2 strands framing his face. The gentle breeze caused his robe to flutter constantly, yet his stance remained as unyielding as a mountain. Li Xianyu's aura, though not as dominant as his master's, exuded the demeanor of a great power. Compared to his last visit, he now bore the aura of hardships, suggesting he had endured more trials than Li Ya. Such dense spiritual energy, far surpassing before. Looking across the world, not even the grotto heavens of the 9 major sects can match this, Li Ya remarked, feeling a bit nervous at the thought of meeting Gu-en soon. Li Xianyu nodded, about to respond when a brilliant light swiftly approached from the horizon. As the light dispersed, 2 figures appeared. It was an Xian and Li Xuanyu. "Sister!" Li Ya exclaimed in joy. He had worried about Li Xuanyu, but seeing her here eased his mind considerably. He instantly noticed that Li Xuanyu had also achieved the status of free immortal, making him marvel at the remarkable fortunes of junior brother Gus Dojo. The Li family produced 2 free immortals, enough to soar to great heights. Yet, both of these free immortals were not in the Taizong dynasty. Li Xuanyu was equally delighted to see Li Ya and immediately approached him. Li Ya did not act impolitely. He first greeted an Xian and introduced his apprentice. "Your apprentice is quite remarkable, having already reached the cultivation level of free immortal." Li Xuanyu praised as she examined Li Xianyu. An Xian was not surprised. She had sensed it when Li Xianyu last visited. At that time, he had already achieved free immortal status. Li Xianyu's cultivation speed was undoubtedly top tier, causing an Xian to suspect that he had received guidance from their master. She knew that their master often kept an eye on Li Ya, possibly aiding him secretly. He is indeed promising, but the path ahead is long for him as a free immortal. Li Ya smiled. The 4 then flew towards Wuxia while chatting, mostly Li Ya and Li Xuanyu conversing. Li Xuanyu expressed, "You remain the same, always stirring things up. Compared to you, my experiences are quite dull, having mainly cultivated within the dojo." Li Ya shook his head, "Though you stayed here, your cultivation level is not inferior to mine." Despite his words, Li Ya did not consider Li Xuanyu to be his opponent. On the contrary, he was curious about Enzin's strength. In his perception, Enzin's cultivation was unfathomable, with her gaze making him feel uneasy. He suspected that an Xian had surpassed the free immortal level. If that were true, it would be extraordinary. An Xin, as his junior, had surpassed him. Back in Supreme Sect, apart from being Gu An's disciple, an Xin was nothing remarkable in his eyes. Who would have thought that, from Supreme Sect, an Xin could reach this level? As they flew, passing through the cities, Leah was amazed by the spiritual aura of the beings along the way. All the beings here were engaging in immortal cultivation, and their levels were substantial. Nearly every city contained individuals surpassing celestial and earthly immortals, a foundation unmatched by the 9 major sections. Li Xianyu also marveled silently. Compared to his last visit, the continent had transformed significantly, even giving him the illusion that this was the real center of the celestial spirit great world. When the master-apprentice duo saw the cloud-enwrapped Wanjie Gate, they were even more astounded. Li Xianyu had seen it before, but from a distance. Being closer allowed him to truly feel Wanjie Gate's vast aura, inspiring a sense of reverence. An Xin noticed Li Ya's astonishment and explained the origins and uses of Wanjie Gate. After understanding, Li Ya was even more impressed with junior brother Gu's Dao practice. Just how strong was junior brother Gu? He realized that the higher his own cultivation level, the greater the gap became between him and junior brother Gu. He did not feel disheartened because he knew it's not that his strength didn't grow fast enough, but the original gap was huge. Now he could see it more clearly. The four did not pause, and amidst Li Ya's continuous marveling, they finally reached the core dojo of Wusher. He could sense an invisible, immense barrier separating the outside world. Stepping inside, the overwhelming Dao intent flooded towards him, filling him with an exhilarated sensation. "Leah, you rascal, you're still alive?" A cheerful laugh rang out. Leah turned to see a middle-aged man standing under a tree in the forest below, gazing up at them. Supreme Sect Zuijian. He was here too. Leah was once again shocked because Zuijian had also reached Zizai Immortal Realm. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 734. Divine Origin Immortal Palace. Leah and Zuijian could not remember how many years had passed since their last meeting, only that it seemed like a distant memory. Their unexpected reunion in a foreign land, separated by millions of years, filled them both with deep emotions. An Xin stopped, allowing the two to reminisce. Zuijian, seeing the current Leah, was very pleased. He recalled that more than 4 million years ago, Leah was just an ordinary disciple of the Supreme Sect. At that time, and Hao and Wuju were the talents overshadowing him. Who would have thought that over 4 million years later, and Hao and Wuju had vanished without a trace, while Leah had become the #1 sword cultivator in the world. As a sword cultivator himself, Zuijian naturally paid close attention to such a title. During their conversation, he could sense the vast sword intent contained within Leah, which secretly startled him. How did this kid cultivate? He came to Wusher, bathing daily in the Dao intent of the supporting Dao sword venerable, achieving his current accomplishments. But compared to Leah, he felt that his own sword Dao was insignificant. Little did he know, Leah was equally shocked. He understood how Zuijian could reach the free immortal realm, but how could he also be so formidable in sword Dao? As they continued to talk, their excitement began to wane. An Xin, Li Xuanyu, and Li Xianyu could clearly sense the change in their mood, creating a subtle atmosphere. Eventually, an Xin took the initiative to speak, saying that Leah still had to see his master, and bid farewell to Zuijian. Watching the four of them leave, Zuijian sighed, "How truly fortunate they are." He had knelt for many years on the heaven-repairing platform of the Supreme Sect to gain his current opportunity, while Li Ya's destiny changed the moment he stumbled upon Medicine Valley, where the supporting Dao sword venerable lay in wait. How could he not be envious? He remembered that in those days, Leah wasn't even the most outstanding in the Li family, let alone in the Supreme Sect. Zuijian then thought of his son, Zuolin. Initially, Zuolin had a good relationship with Guan, but over the years, they had gradually drifted apart. Elsewhere, Li Xianyu flew to Li Ya's side and asked curiously, "Master, do you bear a grudge against him?" Li Ye gave him a sideways glance and said, "How could there be a grudge? I grew up with his son. So the Tao heart is still not stable enough. Even this could upset me?" Li Ye despised himself in his heart. How could he belittle others, especially his old acquaintance? If it were junior brother Gu, he certainly wouldn't react this way. With this thought, Li Ya's eyes regained their usual indifference. He decided that once he returned, he would cultivate his Tao heart anew. Li Xianyu, unaware of his master's thoughts, continued to ask about Zui Yijian's identity. Li Ye didn't hide anything and recounted the past between Zui Yijian and Guan. Knowing that Zui Yijian had impressed Master Gu through years of persistence, Li Xianyu couldn't help but marvel at how fortunate both he and Li Ye were. "Master, junior brother Gu really holds you in high regard. I'm even tempted to join the Wusher sect now." Li Xianyu's words didn't anger Li Ye. He knew the kid was intentionally teasing him. Of course, if Li Xianyu could join the Wusher sect, he would be happy as his master. But Wusher isn't a place he could decide on his own, nor does he have the face to ask Guan, considering how much he owes him. Soon after, the four of them descended onto the peak where Guan resided. An Xian and Li Xuanyu signaled for them to enter the courtyard, then the two women disappeared. Li Ye gazed at the courtyard gate, not daring to pry with his divine sense. To his surprise, he felt a bit nervous. However, with Li Xianyu watching him, he had to maintain the demeanor of a master. He straightened his back and walked towards the courtyard gate. Li Xianyu, watching his back, found it amusing. Who would have thought Master could get so nervous? Could Master Gu really be his junior brother? It felt more like he was his master's master. As Li Xianyu thought, he followed behind Li Ye, suddenly feeling that his master's meeting with his junior brother would be interesting. Entering the courtyard, Li Ye saw a large cauldron and a slender figure meditating in front of it. The figure's back looked familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. He didn't think much of it. Seeing old acquaintances in Gu An's dojo was quite normal. See Tijnel Fire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. His eyes shifted to a figure under a big tree in the courtyard. That person was lying on a long chair reading a book, a posture that left him dazed. He recalled how, over 4 million years ago in Profound Valley, Guan also enjoyed lying down to read. "Brother, why are you standing there daydreaming? Have you been severely injured recently, harming your mind?" Gu An's teasing voice brought Li Ye back to reality. For some reason, hearing Gu An's taunt relaxed him, as if their relationship had returned to the old days. A smile appeared on Li Ya's face as he stepped forward and said, "How could that be? When have I ever been seriously injured?" Seeing his master relax instantly, Li Xianyu grew more respectful towards Guan. Not only was Master Gu powerful, but he also empathized with others. Such a great power was truly the supreme being of the human world. Eager to hear what his master and junior brother would discuss, Li Xianyu quickly followed. Sunlight streamed into the courtyard, and birds flew out of the woods as if celebrating the heartwarming reunion of old friends. Under the blue sky, an endless sea of clouds lay still, and an old tree stood at its zenith. A white-robed Taoist was meditating beneath the tree. It was none other than Li Xuanmiao. After attaining his immortal class and gaining celestial court destiny, his cultivation level had soared, now reaching the innate golden immortal realm, and it was still rapidly growing. Though his position was now that of an immortal monarch, the innate golden immortal realm was still unqualified for an immortal monarch, so he hadn't started his immortal duties yet. A rainbow of 7 colors descended from the sky, landing 7 steps away from Li Xuanmiao. A lean old man in purple, frail and thin to the bone but with bright, sword-like eyes, full of sharpness, appeared before him. "Immortal monarch Xuanmiao, I bear a decree from the Supreme. You are to go to the Divine Origin Immortal Palace to receive the Heavenly Tao Divine Weapon." The old man in purple bowed respectfully, but his eyes scrutinized Li Xuanmiao up and down. Li Xuanmiao opened his eyes, and the old man lowered his gaze. "I understand. I will go shortly," Li Xuanmiao said, without immediately rising. His reincarnation projection was not fully retracted. The old man in purple continued, The Supreme also told me to remind you that if the great immortal divine Yuan tries to recruit you, listen but make no promises. All right. Li Xuanmiao agreed. Though he had spent years cultivating in the celestial court, various immortals and gods frequently tried to recruit him, giving him an insight into the factional struggles within the celestial court. The internal factions of the celestial court were more complex than he had imagined. Despite his immortal monarch status, he had to tread cautiously. The gods and star monarchs likely had backings of even higher beings. The old man in purple said no more, bowed, and disappeared. Li Xuanmiao stood up, gazing at the sea of clouds, as if peering through to the cycle of reincarnation. Divine Origin Immortal Palace, Great Immortal Divine Yuan. Li Xuanmiao looked down at the 3,000 great worlds, pondering how to contact his master. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 735. Boosting Life Span. Li Ya and his disciples stayed at the Taoist field of the Beginningless for only a month. During this month, Guan and Li Ya traveled through mountains and waters, occasionally discussing the Tao, as if returning to their youth. The reason Li Ya visited Guan was to express his gratitude, but until their parting he couldn't utter the word, thanks. Spending a month of leisure with Li Ya made Guan very happy. After Li Ya left, Guan gave a lecture to all the disciples, making the Wushiji disciples realize Li Ya's importance in Zin's heart. The peaceful days continued. After reaching perfection in the Xian Qi primordial immortal realm, Guan felt that even having trillions of years of lifespan wouldn't guarantee success for his next breakthrough. Thus, he began to increase his lifespan income. Nowadays, his dojo encompassed the entire 9-spirit continent, making it easy to expand the number of medicinal herbs. With the help of the ghost mother of ephemera, Guan could relax and simply enjoy the results. 1,000 years later, his annual lifespan income increased to 200 million years. Another million years passed. In the celestial spirit great world, similar yet different conflicts unfolded. Overall, the world was relatively peaceful, and sect disputes did not affect the common folk. In contrast to the tranquility of the celestial spirit great world, the 3,000 great worlds ushered in the arrival of the immortal gods. In each great world, several immortal gods appeared, summoning wind and rain, bringing harmony to heaven and earth and all living beings. People began to believe in the immortal gods, strengthening the heavenly Tao destiny that enveloped the great worlds. Under the banners of 2 sons of heaven, the immortal gods began to act, not only recruiting the masters of heaven and earth but also guiding the masses to worship them. Meanwhile, they portrayed the opposing son of heaven and immortal gods as evil, depicting the future battle of sons of heaven as a catastrophic event for the 3,000 great worlds, a battle between good and evil. Guan stayed within the celestial spirit great world, watching the actions of those immortal gods, feeling that the celestial court was nothing special. The celestial court was powerful enough, but its order and conduct did not match the name of the immortal gods. The disparity between immortal gods and mortal spirits was vast. Mortal spirits could not see the actions of immortal gods. A single word from an immortal god would become an ancient legend that would linger in the world for thousands, even tens of thousands of years. Mortal spirits could not guess that these myths were all conspiracies, and generational beliefs caused the 3,000 great worlds to split into 2, mutually hostile. It was just past noon at the Taoist field of the Beginningless. 2 figures descended from the sky, landing on 2 adjacent mountain peaks. They were the blood prison great saint and Sin. Guan and an Exen stood in the mountain ravine, looking up at them. The 2 had just flown out of the barrier established by Guan, and the result of the battle was decided. Sin was not a match for the blood prison great saint, but he succeeded in wounding him, surprising the blood prison great saint. "You brat!" The blood prison great saint widened his eyes, looking at Sin on the opposite mountain peak, unable to calm his emotions. Though Sin still looked like a young man, he already possessed the demeanor of the Emperor of Eternal Life, with steadfast arrogance and a spirited smile, full of vigor. Blood Prison Great Saint, our gap has shortened again. CTH Novelfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Sin said loudly, his voice resonating through heaven and earth. The Blood Prison Great Saint, irritated, said, "Brat, if you want to defeat me, you still need more cultivation. I wasn't serious just now." "Is that so? I don't believe it. I think you were already anxious." "Humph, that's my fighting style." The two began to argue, neither yielding. By the small river in the ravine, Guin and an Exen watched them bicker, smiles on their faces. Little junior brother's talent is truly frightening. It seems even greater than Tian Hao and Emperor Tianhong. "Master, what is his background?" An Exen, curious, asked. Because Sin was always taught by Guin, others thought his rapid cultivation was reasonable. But she knew differently, as she was also tutored by Guin and deeply understood Sin's extraordinary nature. This boy wasn't simply growing in cultivation level. His body was already molding the great Tao, becoming stronger continuously. An Exen sensed a terrifying cause and effect within him, a mystery even the immortal emperor's eye couldn't see through. "He comes from the desperate celestial tomb, a place outside the great Tao," Guin briefly explained Sin's background. He valued an Xian highly, so since she wanted to know, he wouldn't refuse. An Xen was his successor. Someday, she would become the master of the beginningless, and he could roam freely across the heavens. After hearing this, an Xian felt a deep sympathy for Sin's past but did not show much change in expression. Though Master didn't explain in detail Sin's identity, she did not press further. Sin looked young, but having stayed in the desperate celestial tomb for so long, he endured lonely years far beyond their imagination. Given that Sin lived for so long, his current rapid growth was understandable. Perhaps in those endless years, Sin had been accumulating, now finally ready to erupt with power. The conversation between the master and disciple did not reach the ears of the Blood Prison Great Saint and Sin. When the two descended, Guin and an Xian stopped talking. "Master, do you think he was anxious just now?" Sin approached Guin, frowning. Guin patted his head and smiled. "Victory is victory, defeat is defeat. Why worry about how much effort the other put in? Continually cultivate, and one day you will win." Sin agreed, smiling broadly, and did not dwell on the issue. The Blood Prison Great Saint felt displeased. He didn't want to lose. But since the words came from Guin, he didn't dare refute and remained silently disgruntled. "Sin, you are now a free immortal, capable enough in cultivation. Do you want to venture out and train for a while?" Guin looked at Sin, smiling. Seeing Master truly pampering Sin, perhaps even more so than herself, an Exen thought Sin's background was indeed not simple. No matter how she looked, Sin's brows and eyes seemed somewhat similar to Master's. Though she had such suspicions, she dared not point them out. Sin being suppressed in the desperate celestial tomb for so many years indicated that Master might have encountered dreadful events in the past, making it impossible to protect his son. Guin, catching in Sin's inner thoughts, found them amusing. She guessed correctly. "Yes, can I?" Sin nodded excitedly. Guin looked at the Blood Prison Great Saint and said, "You accompany him to train for a millennium. No matter what he does, do not intervene. Just follow him, letting him experience and judge for himself." "Me?" The Blood Prison Great Saint widened his eyes, unwilling. Seeing his reluctance, Sin immediately said, "Master, just him." Gritting his teeth, the Blood Prison Great Saint found the boy increasingly difficult to deal with. "You both may go." Guin shook his head with a smile and then turned away. Watching him, an Exen said meaningfully, "This is not just a test for little junior brother. Perhaps it's also a test for you." "A test?" Hearing this, the Blood Prison Great Saint immediately felt invigorated. He loved the Master's tests, knowing benefits would follow if completed. His previous experience on the path of the Great Tao had fruitful outcomes, not only forging numerous friendships and brotherhoods but also becoming the first primordial Tao Emperor in the Taoist field of the beginningless, aside from the Master. An Xian turned and followed Guin's footsteps. After their figures disappeared into the forest, The blood prison great saint looked at Sin, smiling meaningfully. Brat, in the human world, while I won't interfere, I will report everything you do to the master. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 736. The Way of the Immortal Official. The blood prison great saint and Sin have been gone for a millennium, traveling in the human world. Time passes slowly, but for the disciples in the dojo, it seems like they were only gone for a day. During his travels in the human world, Sin broadened his understanding. He encountered all sorts of things, saved lives, was deceived, and even killed people. He also had conflicts with major sections. However, all grudges disappeared when he returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless, because no one could forcefully charge against Sin. These experiences made him grow a lot, and he began to contemplate what kind of person he wanted to become. The blood prison great saint followed Sin, saying he wouldn't interfere, but when faced with the siege of major sects, he couldn't stand by and took action. This also eased his relationship with Sin. Those two quieted down, but among the third-generation disciples, a fearless one emerged. Guan didn't feel annoyed but found it interesting. After all, he wouldn't teach the third-generation disciples or the fourth-generation disciples. Watching their antics had its own charm. 30,000 years later, the celestial spirit great world welcomed an unexpected guest. In the depths of the cosmos, at the world gate, the celestial spirit God awaited the visitors. The world gate emitted brilliant light, as bright as the sun. From the intense light within the gate, a figure slowly walked out. Feeling the other's celestial Tao destiny, the celestial spirit God raised his hand in salute and said, "The celestial spirit God greets the immortal monarch. May I know why the immortal monarch has come? I am Yin Xian, immortal monarch. I've come for the grand cause of the Xianyuan human venerable, the Son of Heaven. I've also come to seek immortal fate for the living beings of this realm." A voice came from the intense light, with a tone that was indifferent yet filled with undeniable pride. As the voice fell, a man in black robes stepped out from the intense light. He was tall and imposing, with two purple pythons coiled around his waist. The python heads wrapped around his back, raised high above his head like two colorful ribbons fluttering behind him. Hearing Yin Xian immortal monarch's words, the celestial spirit God's expression remained unchanged. He replied, "The celestial spirit great world does not wish to meddle in the contention for the Son of Heaven." If it were before, he would have hesitated. But now, with Guan supporting him and Gu Annis disciple in the immortal class, what did he have to fear? Whether inside or outside the celestial court, he possessed confidence. Yin Xian immortal monarch's gaze fell upon the celestial spirit God, as if trying to see through him. The celestial spirit God fearlessly met his gaze. As the intense light within the world gate faded, Yin Xian immortal monarch was gradually engulfed by darkness, making him appear less like an immortal god and more like an evil god. "May I ask whose domain this realm belongs to?" Yin Xian immortal monarch asked. Being refused by the celestial spirit God didn't anger him, for he understood the message the celestial spirit God was conveying. This guy had backers. The celestial spirit God frowned, not expecting the other to pursue the question. At that moment, a figure appeared behind the celestial spirit God, and the immortal light emitted from him caught the corner of the celestial spirit God's eye, causing him to turn his head instinctively. "I was wondering who it was, so it's Tai immortal monarch." Yin Xian immortal monarch's voice rang out. Looking at Tai immortal monarch behind the celestial spirit God, he smiled. He wasn't afraid of the celestial spirit great world having backers. He was only afraid if the backers of the celestial spirit great world wanted to support the rival Son of Heaven. Tai immortal monarch spoke. "Yin Xian immortal monarch, the celestial spirit great world was once under an order of destruction and has been removed from the registry of the 3,000 great worlds. Although it will be restored in the future, for now, it doesn't count in the Son of Heaven contention." Yin Xian immortal monarch laughed. "Since you put it that way, I'll indeed give some face. Tai immortal monarch nodded slightly. The celestial spirit god silently stepped aside, not obstructing the view of the two immortal monarchs. See Tij Oval Fire. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Yin Xian immortal monarch and Tai immortal monarch were clearly acquainted. However, the atmosphere between them was somewhat tense, making the celestial spirit god feel a sense of impending conflict. What's this? Does Yin Xian immortal monarch have further teachings to impart, or does the human venerable have additional instructions? Tai immortal monarch asked as he took a step forward, his aura bursting forth, causing the celestial spirit god's expression to change. Yin Xian immortal monarch laughed. No, I was just curious. It said that the Son of Heaven descended to this great world. I wonder if it's true or false. If it's true, do you want to investigate the Son of Heaven? Tai immortal monarch pressed, his attitude arrogant and domineering. How could I dare? Forget it, consider it my intrusion. Yin Xian immortal monarch shook his head, smiling, then turned and walked towards the world gate. His celestial Tao destiny activated the Tao intent within the world gate, causing a burst of heavenly Tao light to erupt, once again illuminating the cosmos. Tai immortal monarch and the celestial spirit god watched him walk into the world gate. Only when his presence completely disappeared did they look at each other. The celestial spirit god hesitated to speak. Tai immortal monarch's expression became calm. He said, if we don't act strong, he would surely return. Only by showing no fear of the Son of Heaven can the Son of Heaven behind him have apprehensions. After all, right now, the Son of Heaven's opponent is another Son of Heaven. We cannot afford internal conflicts. The celestial spirit god found this reasonable and stopped asking questions. Tai immortal monarch turned and left, leaving behind a parting remark. More immortal gods will descend to the lower realm. Be prepared. Before his words completely faded, Tai immortal monarch disappeared. The celestial spirit god wasn't worried. Instead, he thought that this guy was better at dealing with situations. No wonder he became an immortal monarch. Even the path of an immortal official requires talent. The celestial spirit god lamented in his heart, then shook his head and walked towards his meditation spot. Far away in the Taoist field of the beginningless, Guwen was very pleased with Tai immortal monarch's attitude. He didn't need to instruct him. He already knew how to handle things. Smart. As for Xianyuan human venerable behind Yin Xian immortal monarch, Guwen wasn't concerned, just a Miao Zhen Daoyuo immortal. Ancestor, how do you see my sword intent? Shangguan Xiener, standing in front of Guwen, asked. She held a wooden sword, its blade imbued with sword intent. Guwen was sitting on the steps carving a wooden statue and casually replied, not bad. Ancestor, could you be more attentive? No matter what I show you, you always say not bad, but I can never rank in the top 3 among the third-generation disciples. Shangguan Xiener pouted, her tone aggrieved and dissatisfied. Guwen actually liked her attitude. The other third-generation disciples were too respectful and even reserved around him. Only Shangguan Xiener dared to show some emotions in front of him. Shangguan Xiener was very smart and knew her limits. Every word she said was rehearsed in her mind. Guwen could hear her inner thoughts and didn't think she was hypocritical or pretentious. As long as she didn't harm others, what was wrong with using clever means to get closer? How about you go out to train like Sin? Guwen looked up at her and smiled. Shangguan Xiener immediately shook her head and said, I won't go out. I have no enemies or family outside, so why go out? Going out isn't that easy to return. Shangguan Xiener thought to herself, not everyone could be like Sin and the blood prison great saint, and there were too many entanglements in the red dust. She was afraid of getting caught up in them. Rather than forming unnecessary karmic ties outside, she preferred to stay and focus on cultivating. Her goal was to become a powerful being like her ancestor, not to get married and start a family, and certainly not to form unnecessary relationships with karmic repercussions. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 737, Great Tao Cause and Effect, Retribution for Evil. Guan listened to Shangguan Xiener's mental activity and found it amusing. What rumors were spreading in private? Those disciples who went out and never returned were not turned away by Guan. Go ask your teachers. You're not qualified for me to teach you yet. Guan replied, then continued carving the wooden statue in his hand. Shangguan Xiener widened her eyes, wanting to say something but ultimately held back. It seems my sword skills are still inadequate, not yet seen by the ancestor. Thinking this way, Shangguan Xiener felt she had gotten an answer. She demonstrated in front of Guan just to see how her achievements stood. Since they were lacking, she would continue to practice. At least now she had more motivation to gain sword enlightenment. Once she figured it out, Shangguan Xiener became invigorated, her whole demeanor returning to her usual lively state. After saying a few words, she hurriedly left. Guan's lips curved upwards as he continued to carve the wooden statue. Over the long years, he had many hobbies, and those he persisted in, he integrated into his cultivation practices. Like the wooden figure in his hand now, which seemed ordinary but contained profound mysteries. He wanted to turn these figures into a powerful combat force. The number he had stored was already considerable, though his cultivation realm was still insufficient. After Shangguan Xiener left, no one else came to disturb Guan. Until dusk, Shenzhen, who was meditating in front of the artifact refining cauldron, opened her eyes. She looked at Guan, who was admiring the wooden figure in his hand, and said, Guan, I saw someone who is inexplicably directed by karma to rescue her. After hearing this, Guan looked at her and asked, Who is it? While speaking, he followed Shenzhen's karma, and what he saw and heard made his heart a little excited. Finally found her. It's a woman, meditating in the dark. That darkness? I can't describe, it's very oppressive. Shenzhen took a deep breath and said seriously. Guan stood up, putting the wooden figure into his chest pocket. He looked at Shenzhen and asked, Do you want to go take a look? Sar the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Shenzhen, after hearing this, didn't immediately agree but hesitated and asked, Would it be dangerous? Am I being manipulated by some powerful entity to draw you in? After comprehending the Tao for millions of years, although she didn't practice qi absorption cultivation much, her enlightenment period was the longest. After achieving primordial Tao Emperor, she had the most reincarnation projections in the dojo, more than an Xen. Though an Xen never said it, Guan knew she already considered Shenzhen her greatest future adversary for the Magic Battle Conference. The Blood Prison Great Saint was no longer a threat to her. With profound Tao practice and rich understanding of the path of cause and effect, she felt nothing in the world was coincidental. She couldn't possibly achieve enlightenment for no reason, nor develop a strong urge to rescue a stranger without cause. It must be some peerless great power plotting against her behind the scenes. What made her worthy of such scheming? She could only think of Guan. Indeed, someone in the unseen forces is guiding you to rescue that woman. Guan walked toward her, smiling as he spoke. Upon hearing this, Shenzhen sighed in relief and asked, You noticed this early on? Do you know that person? Let's go, we'll talk on the way. Guan came to her side and gently patted her shoulder. Shenzhen stood up and followed in Guan's footsteps. As soon as she took a step, the surrounding scene suddenly changed. She found herself in darkness, with silver lines underfoot flowing forward endlessly like countless schools of fish. Guan walked ahead, Shenzhen's gaze fell on his back, and her unease dissipated. She quickly caught up to walk shoulder to shoulder with Guan and curiously asked, What is this place? Why is there no aura of the Great Tao around? This is a void space opened up by the path of cause and effect. Although there seems to be nothing here, there are great cause and effect barriers at the edges. These barriers are products of the rules constructed by the 3,000 Great Tao. Violating these rules will bring retribution, dissipating all Tao practice and suffering infinite misfortune until one's consciousness extinguishes. Guan answered. It was also his first time here. Even if a Tao extreme Daoyuo immortal came here, tainted by great cause and effect, they would meet a terrible end. When he used karma divine power to curse enemies, he suffered retribution from the great cause and effect, but compared to the barriers in this dimension, it was like a grain of rice compared to the moon. Though strong, the great cause and effect here couldn't harm primordial Tao fruit. In other words, a Xian Qi primordial immortal could come and go freely. The great cause and effect here would be like nothing to them. Great cause and effect. Does it mean bad karma? Shenzhen muttered. You could understand it that way. Let me tell you a story next. Guwen agreed, then began narrating the story of the Emperor of Eternal Life. The journey was long. He walked at a leisurely pace, telling the story on the surface, but in truth he was using his Tao intent to help the trapped Fairy Yaoxian dispel the retributions of great cause and effect. Fairy Yaoxian was entangled by great cause and effect, her consciousness sinking into a boundless abyss, constantly experiencing her worst fears, already breaking down. She hadn't entirely lost consciousness due to the Emperor's destiny protection. One had to admit, the Taoist Emperor truly was a marvelous creation, able to contend against the great Tao. For the immortal realm, Fairy Yaoxian's great cause and effect couldn't be dispelled, and the Emperor of Eternal Life was helpless. But for Guwen now, he could resolve the retribution of her great cause and effect. At first, Shenzhen wasn't very interested, listening while experiencing this unfamiliar and unknown cosmos. But soon she got captivated by the story of the Emperor of Eternal Life. Born into misery, orphaned, shouldering vengeance while cultivating, meeting a beloved but having to part, roaming across realms with an obsession but not saving the beloved before being hunted by immortal gods. Shenzhen always had a habit of writing, but she too got absorbed in the life story of the Emperor of Eternal Life, her emotions swaying along. Mysteriously, she seemed to empathize with him. The Emperor of Eternal Life sacrificed himself in the great cause and effect steel, trying to use the most perfect creation of the path of cause and effect to search for Fairy Yaoxian. As Guwen spoke to this point, he stopped, his gaze shifting to Shenzhen. Shenzhen understood. She asked, "The woman I saw is Fairy Yaoxian, and the karma that led me to save her is the Emperor of Eternal Life's obsession?" Guwen answered, "That's right. Once Fairy Yaoxian is saved, this karma will be over, and you won't be affected anymore." Shenzhen frowned and said, "But why did the Emperor of Eternal Life choose me? Do I have some connection to Fairy Yaoxian? Am I her descendant?" "No, you are not. But sins are." "Am not? Then why me?" Shenzhen couldn't figure it out. Suddenly, she thought of something, her eyes widened, and she asked in amazement, "Could it be you are the descendant of the Emperor of Eternal Life? No, what is your relationship with him? Are you his reincarnation?" The thought that Guwen could be the Emperor of Eternal Life made Shenzhen's feelings complicated and inexplicable. Guwen shook his head with a smile. He has already died in the great cause and effect steel without a chance for reincarnation. I just knew him. That was true. The Emperor of Eternal Life had not reincarnated. Rather, he was Guwen's reincarnation body. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 738, Exile Realm. Upon hearing that Guwen was not the reincarnation of the Emperor of Eternal Life, Shenzhen couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Although Guwen already had several women, the thought of Guwen having had a memorable and reincarnated romance with a certain woman still made her a little uneasy. Guwen could hear her thoughts and found it amusing. He had no intention of rekindling his past with Fairy Yaoxian. He too felt uneasy about it. He just needed to save Fairy Yaoxian and fulfill the Emperor of Eternal Life's obsession. As for what happens to Fairy Yaoxian afterward, that would be up to her. Shenzhen asked a few more questions. She was full of curiosity about the Emperor of Eternal Life. His experiences sounded even more legendary than in Hao's, and she had also heard many names of cosmic planes and great beings in the stories, giving her a sense of touching the pinnacle of the great Tao. Guwen, satisfying her curiosity, did not slow his pace. Though he seemed to be walking leisurely, each step took him a significant distance. However, this universe was too vast, far beyond comparison to the celestial spirit great world. After Guan dealt with all of Shenzhen's questions and saw her fall silent, he quickened his pace. Shenzhen looked up and saw a purple lotus blooming in the darkness ahead, emitting circles of purple light, beautiful and yet exuding a dangerous aura. When she saw the purple lotus, she barely had time to think before it suddenly appeared in front of her. Before she could react, Guan waved his sleeve, and a fierce wind arose at his feet, dispersing the purple lotus at once, revealing a figure. It was a woman in a white dress, sitting cross-legged with an upright, sacred posture, resembling an ancient female immortal, exuding an aura of desolation. Her delicate face, skin like white jade, and slightly furrowed brows stood out. What an extraordinary female immortal! No matter how many reincarnations Shenzhen had projected into, seeing countless daughters of heaven, she was still astounded by Fairy Yaoxuan's appearance and demeanor. What's wrong with her? Is she still alive? Shenzhen asked cautiously, standing beside Guan, not daring to act rashly, afraid to disturb Fairy Yaoxian. Guan replied, "She's all right now, but her consciousness needs time to recover." "I see," Shenzhen responded, yet she didn't understand what Guan had done. Did he save Fairy Yaoxian with just a wave of his hand? She watched Fairy Yaoxian silently, feeling her profound aura, her cultivation level unfathomable. So strong. Stronger than anyone she had ever seen, of course, except for Guan. Guan never revealed his aura. At first glance, he seemed like an ordinary person, but anyone who dared to challenge him would face his unrivaled power. The two fell silent, letting the void fall into complete stillness. After a long while, Shenzhen saw Fairy Yaoxuan's eyelids tremble slightly, making her nervous. The main character of Guan's story was the Emperor of Eternal Life. She knew little about Fairy Yaoxuan's personality, but from the story, this Fairy Yaoxian seemed extraordinary, a formidable presence on the path of the Great Tao. Of course, what she feared more was knowing the relationship between Fairy Yaoxian and Guan. Did they come to rescue Fairy Yaoxian just because of their acquaintance with the Emperor of Eternal Life? That sounded too far-fetched. This was not the right place, and how terrifying was the path of cause and effect. Fairy Yaoxian slowly opened her eyes, and the first thing she saw was Guan and Shenzhen. She could see Shenzhen's face clearly, but Guan's face appeared blurry to her, only his outfit was distinct. Her eyes were empty, devoid of emotion, like a deep well, making Shenzhen's heart quiver. She did not speak, just quietly watched Guan and Shenzhen. Guan remained silent, knowing that Fairy Yaoxian was regaining her consciousness. Her cultivation had fallen to the Taoist collection Freedom Immortal Realm, but the Taoist Emperor's destiny still lingered. With time, she could recover all her memories. Thus, silence enveloped both sides once again. After the time of a stick of incense passed, just as Shenzhen was about to lose her patience, Fairy Yaoxian spoke. "Who are you? Are you the ones who expelled the cause and effect from me?" Her voice was hoarse, her words hesitant. Guan answered, "You should be able to feel the cause and effect of the Emperor of Eternal Life on her. It was his obsession that brought us here to rescue you. From now on, you can return to the Tao universe and regain your freedom." "The Emperor of Eternal Life," Fairy Yaoxian murmured, clearly reminiscing about the name. She did not fall silent again but asked, "Can you take me away from here?" Esya the novel, the NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan smiled. "We managed to come here, so naturally we can leave. But before we go, we can help you resolve some potential troubles." He turned around, looking into the depths of the universe, and said, "Show yourself, product of the evil intent of the path of cause and effect." Upon hearing this, Shenzhen quickly turned around to look, but no matter where she looked, she could not see any sign of life. Fairy Yaoxian also looked up, her gaze directed towards one spot, her eyes growing colder. "Who are you to come to the exile realm?" A cold voice echoed, and with it, a pair of enormous eyes opened in the darkness, overlooking Guan and the others. Shenzhen, feeling those eyes on her, felt extremely uncomfortable, as if she was experiencing the utmost malice. Product of evil intent? Not a living being? Xinjun asked in a low voice. Yes, the path of cause and effect is the result of all beings defying the Tao rules. These actions carry various evil intents, and when the path of cause and effect gathers these evil intents together, it gives birth to it. It is part of the path of cause and effect. The more evil intent it encounters, the stronger it becomes. It wants to reach the Tao universe to absorb the evil intents of all beings. But it is bound by the path of cause and effect and cannot find the Tao universe. It can only sense that far away there is the evil intent it desires, so Fairy Yaoxian became its hope. If we leave directly, it will attach itself to Fairy Yaoxian. Guwen introduced the origin of the mysterious giant eyes, his explanation making those eyes narrow in malice. Shenzhen shuddered at the thought. If such an existence were brought to the 3,000 great worlds, wouldn't it cause a disaster? She asked no more questions, warily watching the mysterious giant eyes ahead. You can see through my origins. Since that's the case, what do you plan to do with me? The cold voice sounded again, filled with apprehension and unwillingness. It did not want to give up on Fairy Yaoxian as its hope. Fairy Yaoxian was trapped here, and so was it. Staying here, it could not find the meaning of its existence, and the images brought by those evil intents made it yearn for the human world. Fellow Taoist, if you continue to watch the show, I may have to ruin your plans. Gu's words shocked both the mysterious giant eyes and Xinjun. There were other people? The mysterious giant eyes shifted rapidly, seemingly trying to locate the person's position. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 739. Xuanqiong Saint Mother Xinjun searched everywhere but could not find the presence of any other entities. Fairy Yaoxian frowned deeply. She hadn't expected that more than one presence was watching her secretly. Guwen, on the contrary, remained calm, waiting for the other party to appear. A burst of intense light erupted from the depths of the void across from the mysterious giant eye, startling Xinjun to turn around and see. Fairy Yaoxian also stood up and turned to look. The radiant light blossomed, illuminating half the cosmic void. Within that light, a figure slowly stepped out. From the figure's shape, it was a woman with an elegant posture and an extraordinary aura. She seemed like an ancient giant deity descending, towering over countless miles, larger than any mountain Shenzhen had ever seen, making her widen her eyes involuntarily. I didn't expect fellow Taoists to see through my concealment technique. A cold female voice echoed, accompanied by a majestic heavenly power. Heavenly Court Immortals. Guwen cast a lifespan detection toward her. Xuanqiong Saint Mother, late stage Dao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal Realm 0/0/0, Xuanqiong Saint Mother. Guwen noted the name, planning to inquire with Celestial Spirit God and Tai Immortal Monarch later. Xuanqiong Saint Mother's celestial Dao destiny was extraordinarily dense. Guwen could only perceive her cultivation level and true form. She was not a human who ascended to immortality through cultivation. Her true form was a tree. Guwen spoke. May I ask whom fellow Taoist seeks? This woman is not my aim. My goal is to subdue this evil entity. Could fellow Taoist grant me some convenience? Xuanqiong Saint Mother replied, devoid of the arrogance typical of heavenly court immortals. In truth, she was quite astounded. When Guwen had entered with Xinjun, she was already surprised that this person could resist the counter forces of the path of cause and effect. Now, face to face, she couldn't discern Guwen's depths. She couldn't even see his features clearly. What did it imply? Gu's Dao practice compared to hers was not lower and perhaps higher. The most terrifying thing was that this person bore no sign of celestial Dao destiny, indicating he did not belong to the heavenly court. To cultivate to this degree without reliance on the heavenly court, he was definitely not an ordinary person. Despite the countless powerful entities within the heavenly court, the vast majority of immortal gods grew to their current status due to the celestial Dao destiny. The higher the realm, the harder it is to ascend further. Talent alone can't measure it. If it's solely for this evil entity, I naturally won't interfere, so well leave first. As Guan spoke, he raised his hand and beckoned to Fairy Yaoxian, signaling her to follow. Then he turned and left. Xinjun followed closely, and Fairy Yaoxian didn't hesitate, catching up to their pace. May I know fellow Taoist's name? I am the Supreme Immortal of the Heavenly Court, Xuanqiong Saint Mother. Since we have met, why not forge a good bond? My dojo is in the celestial extreme 9 heavens. You are welcome to visit anytime. Xuanqiong Saint Mother's voice echoed from behind, but it didn't cause Guan to stop. My name is Meng Lang. I wander the heavens without a fixed abode. If I pass by the celestial extreme 9 heavens, I will certainly visit fellow Taoist. Guan responded casually, causing Xinjun's mouth to twitch. Xuanqiong Saint Mother said no more, watching Guan and the 2 others depart. Soon, the trio vanished into the void, while Xuanqiong Saint Mother continued toward the mysterious giant eye. The heavenly Tao light she emitted gradually enveloping the darkness. Elsewhere, Guan led the trio into the chaotic currents of the great Tao, surrounded by dazzling lights that were mesmerizing. That person is truly a heavenly court immortal? How come that evil entity didn't flee? Before we left, it was still staring blankly. Xinjun remarked. Guan stared ahead, saying, she is indeed an immortal god. The heavenly court's destiny can't be faked. As for that evil entity, it wasn't foolish, but it couldn't escape at all. It doesn't fear immortal gods as it coexists with the path of cause and effect. That threatening? Can the immortal gods completely annihilate it? Xinjun pressed. You heard her, she wants to subdue it, which means she's here for personal gain. Subdue it? Allowing such an evil entity to grow is not right. Isn't she afraid of a catastrophe? Xinjun suddenly felt worried, thinking of how that evil entity absorbed the malicious thoughts of all beings, becoming an extremely terrifying existence that could bring catastrophe to the 3,000 great worlds. She used to love writing books and was sensitive to such plotlines. Ia the Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. I wouldn't know, immortal gods have their own intentions. Guan replied casually, actually not caring about such an evil entity. Not to mention Xian Qi primordial immortal, even a Dao extreme Daoyuo immortal could easily subdue it. After all, the evil entity was a creation of the path of cause and effect. No matter how strong, it couldn't surpass the path itself. However, to beings that haven't created their own Dao, such an evil entity is extremely terrifying, leading to a fate worse than death if encountered. Fairy Yaoxian followed behind silently. Her heart was filled with curiosity. Before being expelled by the path of cause and effect, she hadn't encountered many immortal gods, and the aura of Xuanqiong Saint Mother was stronger than any great power she had seen. Who was this person? Why did she come? Fairy Yaoxian faintly guessed, seeing Guan's back gradually overlap with another figure in her mind. Though she had guesses, she did not question him. There must be another hidden story he wasn't revealing. Currently, she needed to focus more on restoring her own cultivation level. Soon, the chaotic currents of the Great Tao disappeared. They arrived at a long river of Great Tao. Light rose from beneath their feet, enveloping them in brightness. Guan stopped, turning slightly to face Fairy Yaoxian, saying, "This is the path of the Great Tao. From now on, you are free." Fairy Yaoxian gazed at him, even with his redefined face. She felt a sense of familiarity. She asked, "You saved me. Don't you need me to do anything for you?" Shenzhen watched them in silence. "I was an old acquaintance of the Emperor of Eternal Life. He has died within the great cause and effect steel. I just fulfilled his last wish." Guan revealed the fate of the Emperor of Eternal Life. Fairy Yaoxian's eyes changed upon hearing this. Shenzhen let out a deep breath. It seemed Guan and Fairy Yaoxian indeed had no direct connection. At this moment, Fairy Yaoxian looked at Shenzhen, saying, "She carries the cause and effect of my child. So, my child has also been saved by you. Where is he?" "He is at my dojo, taken in as my disciple. If you wish to see him, I will let him meet you when he becomes stronger," Guan said truthfully. Fairy Yaoxian turned her gaze back to him, asking, "May I go to your dojo?" She paused and continued, "I don't know how many years I've been sealed, but now I feel that apart from my child, I have no more support or place to go. Joining your dojo, I will serve you in the future." Guwen sighed inwardly. He could hear Fairy Yaoxian's hidden guesses. She determined he was the Emperor of Eternal Life. Just right to let her child see his mother. In the future, leading Fairy Yaoxian to attain the primordial Tao Emperor, perhaps she would understand the relationship between the Emperor of Eternal Life and him. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 740. Immortal Gods' Evil Thoughts. Fairy Yaoxian's arrival did not cause much of a stir at the Taoist field of the beginningless. With the increasing number of fourth-generation disciples, some disciples were still strangers to each other. Fairy Yaoxian was quite intrigued by the Taoist field of the beginningless. The spiritual energy and Tao intent here were the best she had ever encountered, making it truly a holy land for cultivation. Guwen asked Xinjun to take Fairy Yaoxian to find Zue, while he returned to his room to observe the Xuanqiong Saint Mother's methods against the evil creature. Sure enough, the Xuanqiong Saint Mother subdued the evil creature and named it Xian. It is worth mentioning that the Xuanqiong Saint Mother did not introduce the celestial Tao destiny into Xian-E's body, which made Guwen speculate that she did not want this matter to be known by the celestial court. After subduing Xian-E, the Xuanqiong Saint Mother flew towards the celestial extreme 9 heavens without encountering other immortal gods. Guwen withdrew his gaze, closed his eyes, and began to ponder the path of cause and effect of the exile realm. How was such a place formed, and why did it give birth to an existence like Xian-E? If the path of cause and effect can form Tao rules, so can other paths. Does that mean there are other existences similar to Xian-E in other exile realms of different Tao? Given that the celestial Tao destiny is not omnipresent, the 3,000 great worlds are the central places for celestial Tao destiny. Beyond them, there are other realms for celestial Tao destiny, such as the primordial Emperor Domain, Misty Immortal Court, and Ling Mountain. However, there are many places outside the celestial Tao as well. Places like the Hongmeng Great World, Abyss Tao Sea, and Supreme Origin Forest that Guwen had visited. At present, the cosmic planes outside the celestial Tao far surpass those within it. This means that the celestial Tao is far from encompassing the great Tao. Standing at the pinnacle of the celestial Tao, what do the celestial Emperor and the celestial Tao venerables face, and do they have worries? While Guwen was thinking divergently, Zue reunited with Fairy Yaoxian. Before Shenzhen could introduce Fairy Yaoxian, Zue rushed to her. A mother-child reunion is always a heartwarming scene. Zue hugged his mother, wanting to share countless words, while Fairy Yaoxian, seeing that he was doing well, had a face full of smiles. In the days that followed, the relationship between Zue and Fairy Yaoxian became known. Zue was Guwen's youngest disciple, and all disciples of the Taoist field of the beginningless knew that Guwen doted on him. No one expected Guwen to go as far as to bring his mother back as well. Many disciples had their suspicions but did not dare to voice them. Guwen possessed great divine skills, so even if they spoke in the softest of whispers, he would likely hear them. Guwen did not care much about the disciples' thoughts. Time would dilute all doubts. Although Fairy Yaoxian's realm had fallen to that of a Taoist Zhang Zizai immortal, she was still an emperor of the great Tao. After arriving, her cultivation level grew rapidly. It is worth mentioning that Fairy Yaoxian saw through Nzin's cultivation of the immortal emperor's eye and proactively proposed a spar. Although neither emerged victorious, it put pressure on an Exian. An Exian would spar with Fairy Yaoxian every 1,000 years. Until Fairy Yaoxian reached the profound Yuan-free immortal realm, an Exian was no longer her match. For an Exian to achieve the profound Yuan-free immortal realm, it required years of accumulated great Tao insights, while Fairy Yaoxian was merely regaining her former cultivation level. Fairy Yaoxian and an Exian developed a close relationship, which Guwen considered a good thing. Following the Emperor of Eternal Life in battle for so many years, her understanding of the immortal emperor's eye would greatly benefit an Exin. Time flew by quickly. 1,000,000 years had passed since Fairy Yaoxian joined the Taoist field of the beginningless. In the morning, Guan stood by the lake. Practicing Tai Chi, his movements were slow but had the graceful beauty of floating clouds and flowing water. While practicing, he brought up his attribute panel. Name, Guan, lifespan, 6, 250, 704/450, 337, 945, 422, 651. Physique, primordial infinite creation Tao body. Cultivation level, perfection of Xian Qi primordial immortal realm, 4.5 trillion years of lifespan. He was halfway to the trillion-year mark, but Guan felt that the next breakthrough would require more than just 1 trillion years of lifespan. Fortunately, he had no strong enemies currently. With the eternal life venerable, Yang Jian, Li Xuanmiao and other immortal gods around, he had a buffer with the celestial court, preventing enmity. Fighting and killing did not suit him. He preferred this leisurely and peaceful life, doing whatever he wanted while continuously growing stronger. For him, lifespan was like an experience bar in a game. Watching it grow assured him that he was on the right path to becoming stronger. Practicing Tai Chi was something he took interest in during his leisure time, using some fist techniques from his past life. After several rounds, this set of Tai Chi had evolved into a secret skill of the immortal Tao in his hands. Every move and stance could shake the world. Sar the novel, F.I.R. at website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. A figure emerged from the woods behind him. It was Fairy Yaoxian, dressed in a white gown, exuding grace and an enigmatic demeanor despite her cold expression. Only Guan knew that Fairy Yaoxian had yet to reveal her true character. In the Emperor of Eternal Lives memories, she was immensely combative and quite arrogant. Throughout their adventures, it was often the Emperor of Eternal Life who acted as the voice of reason. Perhaps her memories had not fully returned, or perhaps it was the sediment of years, but since arriving at the Taoist field of the beginningless, Fairy Yaoxian had behaved with great composure and the stature of a grand master. In 1,000,000 years, she had established a high level of prestige. Except for Guan, no one knew her true nature. She stood quietly behind Guan, watching him. "Does the fairy have something to discuss?" Guan asked, without pausing his movements. Fairy Yaoxian spoke. "Between the Taoist emperor and the primordial Tao emperor, who do you think is stronger?" She was certain Guan was the Emperor of Eternal Life, as he had once been a Taoist emperor and now practiced as a primordial Tao emperor, which intrigued her. The Taoist field of the beginningless already had more than 10 primordial Tao emperors. Through them, Fairy Yaoxian learned the wonders of the primordial Tao emperor, which fascinated her. But she was already a Taoist emperor and was unsure if she could directly cultivate the primordial Tao emperor or if she would need to abandon her Taoist emperor destiny first. "Stronger or weaker depends on the individual cultivator," Guan replied. That was truly what he thought. Although the primordial Tao emperor seemed poised to surpass the Taoist emperor, it was because its cultivation method was easier, at least without the need for constant combat, and failure didn't mean death. Even great powers would dislike constant battles within their own realm or higher. Fairy Yaoxian nodded slightly and continued, "During my years in exile, I witnessed countless scenes and captured many malicious thoughts involving the great cause and effect. Are you interested in hearing them?" "If you want to say it, then say it," Guan replied casually. As the Taoist field of the beginningless could isolate any cause and effect, discussions were not restricted here. Fairy Yaoxian fell silent for a moment, then said, "I saw the malicious thoughts of the heavenly court immortals. Some immortal gods wanted to perform a blood sacrifice of all living beings, some wanted to seize the celestial emperor's throne, and what? And the malicious thoughts of the celestial emperor." Guan paused his movements, stood straight, and turned to face her. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 741. Zhang Buku's obsession, that evil intention claims to be the celestial emperor. He is weary of everything he has created and hostile towards everything he possesses. He even wants to destroy the heavenly Tao itself. Such malice makes me feel terrified even now. If this evil intention truly comes from the celestial emperor, it will be an unimaginable catastrophe. Fairy Yaoxian spoke, her eyebrows furrowed, her eyes filled with worry. She had seen immortal gods and heard of myths about the celestial emperor. In the mythology of the 3,000 great worlds, the celestial emperor is a supreme existence. Some myths say the celestial emperor is the creator giant god of everything. In any myth, the celestial emperor is a top existence that cultivators can only look up to. Guwen did not doubt Fairy Yaoxuan's words. Instead, he found them plausible. The celestial emperor has been invincible for too many years, and the position of the celestial court is unshakable. Absolute power plus endless lifespan means he will get used to everything and everyone, and after getting used to them comes weariness, and further, it might lead to hostility. Thinking about it now, the celestial emperor overlooks the conflict of the sons of heaven, perhaps just for amusement. Guwen could foresee the direction of the sons of heaven's conflict. How much more could the celestial emperor? Knowing there was calamity, the celestial emperor still did not show up. Perhaps in the eyes of the celestial emperor, the calamity for all living beings was just a bit of fun. Of course, Guwen found it possible, but until he saw the celestial emperor in person, he would not make any judgment about him. Why worry about things that have not yet happened? Even if it's true, what can you and I do? Guwen looked at Fairy Yaoxian, trying to comfort her. Sar the Novel Fire. Net * website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Xian Qi Primordial Immortal can see a very distant future but cannot see the end of the heavenly Tao, nor judge the fate of the great Tao. Fairy Yaoxian stared at Guwen, saying, "You once pursued the path of cause and effect. Now your cultivation level is profound and unfathomable, yet you hide in this little world. Isn't it because you fear the celestial court?" Listening to Xinjin, the Emperor of Eternal Life was once hunted by immortal gods and ultimately sacrificed himself into the great cause and effect steel. In Fairy Yaoxuan's view, these events contributed to the present-day Guwen. The Emperor of Eternal Life was so spirited, never knowing fear, acting bravely, even recklessly. Clearly, after entering the great cause and effect steel, the Emperor of Eternal Life did not die, but because of the immortal gods, he began to hide his identity, cultivating in a little world until now. After achieving great cultivation, he saved her immediately. Because of this, Fairy Yaoxian would not expose Guwen's disguise. Since Guwen feared the immortal gods, why create trouble? She only needed to inform him about the celestial court. Guwen listened to Fairy Yaoxuan's inner thoughts, feeling quite helpless. Really good at imagination. Guwen solemnly said, "I have no grievances with the celestial court. No matter what you imagine, it's wrong. I enjoy my current life. I am not a combative person." Fairy Yaoxian responded, "I also focus on cultivation, enjoying the current life. If you want to learn about the celestial court, I have more information to share." "Well, that's not impossible," Guwen pondered. He couldn't deduce the evil intention Fairy Yaoxian felt within the path of cause and effect. It could only be explained by her or recalled. Fairy Yaoxian smiled upon hearing this. Above the sea of clouds, the celestial calming god walked ahead, followed by 9 heavenly soldiers, including Zhang Buku and Suyu. Millions of years passed, and the demeanor of Zhang Buku and Suyu had undergone drastic changes, now possessing the demeanor of heavenly soldiers. Zhang Buku was communicating with Suyu, curious about whom they were to meet this time. Probably going to meet the Star Monarch or Immortal Monarch. Suyu responded through transmission, hearing Zhang Buku's eyes filled with curiosity. He had just begun to understand the celestial court, captivated by its hierarchical ranks. Since he aimed to ascend, he must strive upwards. If he could meet the Star Monarch or Immortal Monarch, that would be ideal. Of course, he was merely thinking. He currently lacked the qualifications to converse with the Star Monarch, let alone to meet the Immortal Monarch. No matter whom we meet later, you must kneel. Understand? The celestial calming god's voice came from the front, stern. Understood. The 9 heavenly soldiers responded in unison. This was the tacit understanding that had developed over millions of years of living together, and the celestial calming god's words also made them nervous. After walking for 1 stick of incense time, the celestial calming god suddenly knelt down. The 9 heavenly soldiers quickly followed, kneeling in a row behind him. Zhang Buku scanned the front. The boundless sea of clouds was vast and magnificent. There was not even a single building, let alone any sign of other immortal gods. Where is the star monarch? Zhang Buku was filled with confusion. At this moment, an awe-inspiring celestial might descended, causing the heavenly soldiers' expressions to change. They all looked up, their eyes wide, mouths agape. A giant golden mountain descended from the sky, bringing an overwhelming presence, smashing onto the sea of clouds, creating waves of air current. In front of this golden mountain, the 9 heavenly soldiers felt their chi blood vibrate, their hearts oppressed. Before they could think further, another golden mountain descended from the sky, followed by more golden mountains after it. Boom, 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 the world roared, trembling continuously as the golden mountains stacked together, quickly forming a heavenly ascension stairs, leading upwards indefinitely. Even though the 9 heavenly soldiers had reached the heaven-encompassing free immortal realm, they could not see the highest point. The heavenly ascension stairs is the only road to the heavenly realm. Even celestial gods are not privileged to step on it. Each stair holds immense celestial might, making it impossible to force through. Su Yu's voice transmitted to Zhang Buku's ears. Zhang Buku dumbly stared at the heavenly ascension stairs, his heart shocked, his mind blank. The other 7 heavenly soldiers felt similarly. They had never seen such a breathtaking scene before, with the celestial might making their souls tremble, inducing an urge to bow. When the roar faded, Zhang Buku came to his senses. He saw a radiant light appear at the top of the heavenly ascension stairs, resembling a sun hanging above it. A figure slowly emerged from within, walking down the stairs. He couldn't see the true form of the figure, but his heartbeat echoed like war drums. A sudden determination arose within him. He wanted to ascend the heavenly ascension stairs. He wanted to become a true immortal god. He wanted to stand in the heavenly realm, looking down upon all heavens and myriad realms. His desire to ascend to immortality became unprecedentedly strong. The celestial calming god looked up silently, waiting for the immortal god to come down. The mysterious immortal god did not walk fast. As he passed more stairs, his form became immense, like the creator giant god from outer heaven descending to the human world, bringing immense pressure to the 9 heavenly soldiers. I am Yin Xian, immortal monarch. Are you the celestial calming god? A cold voice descended from the sky. Hearing this, the celestial calming god quickly responded, I am the celestial calming god. What does the immortal monarch command? His body was taut, seemingly not expecting to meet an immortal monarch. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 742, Lord of the Human Race Yin Xian, Immortal Monarch. Zhang Buku's heart tightened. The newcomer was an immortal god a step higher than a star monarch, which made him very nervous. As the other party continued to descend, the oppressive feeling he felt rapidly grew stronger. Now, he could not even lift his head, let alone glimpse Yin Xian, Immortal Monarch's figure. How powerful was this? Zhang Buku could not imagine. Even though he was already considered knowledgeable and experienced, he was still shocked by Yin Xian, Immortal Monarch's overwhelming heavenly might. He could not help but wonder, compared to the mysterious great power that once suppressed their entire celestial army on the path of the great Tao, which one was stronger? Yin Xian, Immortal Monarch looked down at the celestial gods and heavenly soldiers below, expressionless, quite different from when facing Tai, Immortal Monarch. After a long while, Yin Xian Immortal Monarch finally stopped his steps, still standing on the heavenly ascension stairs, far above the ground, like an unshakable giant mountain. Heavenly Calming God, Huang Feng Immortal Monarch should have explained everything to you. Yin Xian Immortal Monarch's voice sounded, with a majestic tone. Heavenly Calming God looked up and replied, "He has explained it. We will do our best to support the human venerable." Human venerable? Zhang Buku was secretly curious. The human venerable should be one of the sons of heaven. Yin Xian Immortal Monarch waved his hand, and a golden light descended from the sky, falling in front of the heavenly Calming God. As the golden light dissipated, a golden pill the size of a pigeon egg appeared. Keep this pill safe. When the contest of the celestial sons begins, you will charge at the forefront. This pill will be your reliance. Yin Xian Immortal Monarch spoke again. The heavenly Calming God seemed to know the origin of the pill and didn't ask further. After receiving the golden pill, he immediately saluted Yin Xian Immortal Monarch. Yin Xian Immortal Monarch said no more and turned to ascend, respectfully seeing off the Immortal Monarch. The heavenly Calming God shouted loudly, followed by 9 heavenly soldiers. Their voices resounded through the sky. Yin Xian Immortal Monarch's footsteps on the heavenly ascension stairs were very heavy, like rolling thunder, louder than when he came. Vaguely, Zhang Buku seemed to hear countless celestial gods shouting, shaking his mind. Only when Yin Xian Immortal Monarch disappeared at the end of the heavenly ascension stairs, and the heavenly might dissipated, did Zhang Buku dare to look up. Under his gaze, the heavenly ascension stairs gradually became transparent, disappearing like a mirage. The heavenly Calming God stood up, and the heavenly soldiers breathed a sigh of relief and stood up one after another. God Lord, is that human venerable the Son of Heaven we are to support? What is the Immortal Monarch's cultivation level? Such terrifying aura, I was tense all over just now and didn't dare move. Are we to charge forward? Is this good or bad? Of course it is good. We have the Celestial Court's destiny, immortal and indestructible. What's there to fear? This is our opportunity to earn merit. The heavenly soldiers asked in a flurry. They were smart, not asking about the golden pill. The heavenly Calming God looked at them and said calmly, "It is indeed an opportunity to earn merit. We are serving the human venerable. The human venerable once trained in the 3,000 great worlds and was once the lord of the human race in one of the great worlds. He has a heart of compassion for all living beings. Only with him becoming the celestial emperor can the heavenly Tao continue on the right path. So, the upcoming Celestial Sons contest is not just for our benefit but for the future of the heavenly Tao. Do you understand?" Upon hearing this, the heavenly soldiers all nodded seriously, except for Su Yu, who slightly pouted. The heavenly Calming God then walked back to their original path, followed closely by the 9 heavenly soldiers. Far away in the Taoist field of the beginningless, Guan was watching them. He was very concerned about this junior, Zhang Buku. Of course, this was also because Zhang Buku constantly thought about him. If Zhang Buku had long forgotten him, he wouldn't be paying so much attention. Zhang Buku's experience was just a microcosm. In the 3,000 great worlds, the movement of celestial gods was frequent, with star monarchs and immortal monarchs descending to the lower realm continuously, rapidly boosting the celestial Tao destiny of the 3,000 great worlds. The celestial Tao destiny not only enhanced nature's spiritual energy but also helped cultivators of immortality to cultivate better. The beings of the 3,000 great worlds were unaware of the celestial god's struggle, thinking that their respective worlds were welcoming an unprecedented golden age. Esya the novel, NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The celestial spirit great world was also within the 3,000 great worlds. Its celestial Tao destiny was also on the rise, and the human world continuously produced talented individuals, which did not affect the 9 spirit continent. Guan withdrew his gaze and then looked at the mountains, wherein Zizai and Zue were suspended in the air. The two seemed motionless but had already entered the domain created by Guan, engaging in combat. and Zizai had diligently cultivated the myriad supreme palm and had achieved some accomplishments. Guan had not passed this palm technique to anyone else. Different disciples would cultivate different Taoist techniques, and it wasn't necessary to pass everything to one person. Compared to in Zizai, Zue's mastery of divine skills was more extensive. To be precise, Zue had no weaknesses in any area, which was why no single divine skill stood out prominently. Even so, Zue was forcefully pressing in Zizai in combat. Guan was pondering whether to guide Zue in cultivating the immortal Emperor's Eye, as it would be inheriting the legacy of the Emperor of Eternal Life. The immortal Emperor's Eye could be directly transplanted, but Guan did not want to do that. He could only guide Zue to cultivate it and see if Zue had the destiny for it. An hour later, Zue and Zizai opened their eyes at the same time, both panting heavily. And Zizai's face was quite unsightly. He didn't expect that his proud myriad supreme palm could do nothing against Zue. Zue was also shocked, not expecting a third-generation disciple to be so powerful. And Zizai, you are really formidable. Someday you might surpass some second-generation disciples. Zue sincerely sighed. Since he had gone out with the blood prison great saint to train for 1,000 years, he was no longer so arrogant and had learned some worldly manners. He had to encourage his junior. And Zizai forced a smile and said, "I'm not that great." The two exchanged pleasantries and then flew towards Guan. "Zue, you can go back now. I need to teach in Zizai alone," Guan said. Hearing this, Zue was stunned for a moment and then left with a salute. And Zizai looked at Guan with a face full of guilt. Although Zue was his senior uncle, Zue had joined the dojo later than him. He had even watched Zue cultivate up close. Now being defeated by Zue, he felt he had disappointed his ancestors' expectations. Don't think too much about it. Whether one of you is stronger than the other, you are both family. Through sparring, finding your shortcomings, and improving together, that is the most important thing. Fellow disciples should always be family and not enemies. Understand? Guan said earnestly. Hearing this, Zizai took a deep breath and nodded solemnly. Next, I will teach you the second palm of the myriad supreme palm, the myriad dragons ascending to heaven. This palm contains powerful sealing power, which can just make up for your current shortcomings. Gu's words filled Zizai's eyes with anticipation. He immediately knelt and said in a solemn voice, "Disciple will strive to cultivate the myriad supreme palm. One day, I will make this palm renowned in the world, becoming the strongest secret skill in the universe." Guan nodded in satisfaction and said, "I appreciate your determination. In fact, I have great expectations for you. You might even be the disciple I look forward to the most in the beginningless lineage." These words made Zizai's entire being ignite with passion, and his face turned visibly red with excitement. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 743, Mo Luo Clan, Chaos of Immortals and Demons in the Dark Depths of the Universe. Bolts of lightning appeared out of thin air, entwining and spreading. Faintly, a colossal entity was advancing, accompanied by lightning. The massive scales that resembled mountains reflected a cold, icy light. On the other end of the universe, countless meteorites gathered into a meteorite belt. Zhu Shi and a dozen cultivators stood on one of the meteorites, looking into the depths of the void, all frowning. What is that? The aura is so terrifying. It must have at least reached the level of a heaven-encompassing free immortal realm. It seems to be tearing apart the universe? Could it be that the battle for the Son of Heaven is about to start? The cultivators around Zhu Shi whispered to each other, all very tense. Since the unification of the Taiwei Great World, the Holy Court's main focus had been preparing for the battle, anticipating the inevitable struggle for the Son of Heaven. Today, they suddenly sensed an uninvited guest arriving in the Taiwei Great World, so they came to observe the situation. The Taiwei Great World also had immortal gods guarding it. As long as those immortal gods were not disturbed, It meant that the Taiwei Great World had not faced an apocalyptic disaster. What they needed to do was to prepare countermeasures in advance. She stared intently at the giant entity at the end of the void, wondering why its aura seemed somewhat familiar to her. There was one person, however, who saw through the origin and identity of this colossal entity. Guin 70,000 years had passed since Guin taught Nzazai the second palm of the myriad supreme palm. Today, he was wandering through a city in the Taizong dynasty when he suddenly sensed that mysterious creatures were continuously invading the 3,000 great worlds, so he looked up. This demon and the demon god body have similar blood and flesh aura. Mo Luo clan. Mo Luo Qilin, Sar the Novel Fire. Any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guin looked at the mysterious demonic creature infiltrating the Taiwei Great World and quickly calculated its cause and effect. The Mo Luo clan comes from the edge of the Great Tao and is somewhat causally linked to chaos evil demons. There are countless forms within the Mo Luo clan. The demon god bodies crafted by the immortal gods are derived from the flesh and blood of the Mo Luo clan. And now, the mysterious creatures invading the 3,000 great worlds also come from the Mo Luo clan, known as Mo Luo Qilin. These Mo Luo Qilin are all bound by invisible heavenly Tao lock chains. Their purpose is to station themselves within the great thousand worlds. From a macro perspective, Guin saw that not all great thousand worlds had Mo Luo Qilin, only half of them did. It appeared that this was a tactic of a certain Son of Heaven, deploying forces in advance. Guin deduced that the Son of Heaven manipulating the Mo Luo Qilin was the Great Immortal Divine Yuan. The Great Immortal Divine Yuan relied on the combined forces of the Mo Luo clan and the native cultivators of the Great World, while Xinyuan Human Venerable depended more on the heavenly soldiers and generals. In the future, when the two sides clashed, it would bring chaos between immortals and demons to the 3,000 great worlds. Guin quickly halted his deductions, wanting to leave some suspense for the future. Although the celestial spirit great world was not under the call of the sons of heaven, it was also part of the 3,000 great worlds and could not avoid catastrophe. At that time, the various sects would have to resist invaders from other great worlds and even face the havoc caused by demonic creatures and heavenly soldiers. At that time, Guin would also send out his Wushiji disciples for training. Mere secluded cultivation was not enough. Even for Guin, having undergone numerous lifespan reincarnations, he had accumulated battle experience unimaginable to ordinary people. Then, Guin withdrew his gaze and continued to walk down the streets of the human world. This city in the human world had cultivators, with the highest realm reaching the nascent soul realm, but it was still mostly inhabited by mortals. The streets were lined with various vendors, and it was the flower season, with numerous petals floating in the air, mingling with a special fragrance that was refreshing and delightful. As he walked, Guin noticed a group of children chasing and beating a small black dog. The dog's fur was dirty and matted, and it was limping, but the children found it amusing. Passers-by, though some glanced over, did not intervene. No one cared about the safety of a stray dog, thinking that children under 10 couldn't possibly harm it fatally. Guin initially did not pay attention, but the small black dog ran towards him, surprising him somewhat. Although he hadn't concealed his aura or presence, the small black dog choosing him was a kind of fate. The small black dog ran up to him, circling behind his legs, and the children coming after it stopped in their tracks, looking at him timidly. Guin's clean and elegant attire made him look unlike a common person, so the children naturally didn't dare offend him. The older children exchanged glances, then turned and ran, with the other children quickly following suit. Whimpering, the small black dog leaned against Guin's boot, whimpering pitifully. Guin glanced at it and then continued walking. The small black dog stayed in place for a moment, then limped to follow Guin. Guin didn't pay it any mind and continued his stroll. By dusk, he left the city, and the small black dog still followed, though it looked extremely exhausted, stumbling as it walked. After leaving the city, Guin entered the woods, and the distance between him and the small black dog gradually increased. Unknown time passed, and the small black dog finally couldn't hold on, collapsing on the ground, its eyelids growing heavy. It struggled to open and close its eyes. Seeing Guwen squatting before it, an unusual light flickered in its eyes. "Since you have such perseverance, I will help you shed your mortal form. But I hope you do not become what you now fear and despise." Guwen's voice reached the small black dog's ears. Though it was ignorant, these words etched deeply into its heart. Drowsiness surged like a tide, quickly dragging its consciousness into darkness. Night fell. Guwen returned to his courtyard. Shenzhen, unusually, was not meditating before the artifact refining cauldron but lay on the rocking chair where Guwen usually lounged, reading a book. Seeing Guwen return, she glanced at him and asked, "You seem to be in a good mood?" I did a good deed today, saved a little dog," Guwen said with a smile, but these words made Shenzhen feel awkward. With his immense cultivation level, capable of saving all living beings in an instant, now simply saving a dog could make him so happy? Shenzhen always felt she understood Guwen well, but sometimes she felt she didn't understand him at all. Perhaps her Tao practice was still insufficient, or maybe something more profound happened during the process of saving the dog. Guwen ignored her and went straight into the room. The moon set and the sun rose, day after day. The Taoist field of the beginningless remained untroubled by worldly affairs. A year outside was like a day inside. Another 1,000,000 years passed. On this day, after picking medicinal herbs, Guwen returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless. Midway up the mountain, he saw fourth-generation disciples gathered together, discussing the affairs of the world. They talked about a great demon that had unified half of the human world, a demon calling itself the Demon Emperor with a grand following, unsettling the 9 sects of the human world. It was said that the 9 sects were debating whether to eliminate this demon. This demon had not committed any evil deeds, but the gathered power of the demon race under it posed a significant threat. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 744. The destiny of the Son of Heaven. The Demon Emperor, who is renowned throughout the world, is precisely the little black dog that Guwen saved 1,000,000 years ago. He conducts himself with integrity, never bullying the weak, nor harming the human race, so his reputation is excellent. Not only does the demon race respect him, but many human race cultivators also admire him. Thus, the 9 major sects don't dare to act rashly. They must have a legitimate reason. All 9 sects of the world adhere to the righteous Tao. Acting in the name of the righteous Tao requires a justification, especially for matters like waging war and taking lives, which must have an unavoidable reason. Tia the novel and at website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guwen listened to the disciples' discussions and already foresaw the fate of the Demon Emperor. In a few years, the 9 major sects would suppress him, sealing him beneath a certain great mountain and dispersing his demon race forces. However, this would also sow the seeds of a future great war between the demon race and the human race in the celestial spirit great world. In the long years that followed, the demon race would continuously produce outstanding talents, one after another, attempting to rescue the Demon Emperor. This would leave behind many well-known legends, widely circulated even among the human race. Although the Demon Emperor's future would be bitter, this had nothing to do with Guwen. A mere acquaintance was not enough for Guwen to consider him as one of his own. If he were to intervene again, it would be unfair to all living beings in the world. Guwen allowed himself to have selfish intentions, but these intentions could not be misused. In fact, whenever he encountered people or events he couldn't tolerate during his travels, he would intervene. He wasn't the kind of great power who stayed aloof from matters that didn't concern him. As long as it didn't affect the destiny of a place, he would help those in suffering, whether humans or demons. Guwen continued forward without disturbing the disciples. He walked up the mountain and returned to his courtyard. An Exian was rarely there, discussing the path of cause and effect with Shenzhen. Seeing Guwen return, an Exian immediately approached and said, "Master, if the 4th-generation disciples want to go out and train, should we allow it?" The earliest fourth-generation disciples had been cultivating in the Taoist field of the beginningless for millions of years and had already reached the Zizai immortal realm. But without Gu An's order, the disciples didn't dare to go out, nor even dare to step into the world gate. Although they could travel around the nine-spirit continent, which also enjoyed the blessings of the dojo, in reality, there was a significant difference between the two. Wushi was a holy land suspended above the nine-spirit continent, and many families wanted to send their offspring here, which required outstanding talent and destiny. When Guan allowed the fourth-generation disciples to take on their own disciples, it would undoubtedly stir up waves across the continent. They can go out but must not enter the world gate. They must return within 10,000 years. If they start a family or fail to return on time, they won't be able to come back. Moreover, if they commit many evil deeds, Wushi will cleanse the sect, whether they return or not. Guan casually replied. Every choice had its gains and losses. Wushiji disciples had already enjoyed privileges beyond the reach of the masses and couldn't have it all. He did this to give Wushi disciples an opportunity to return to secular life. Going out to train for 10,000 years and seeing enough of the red dust, they could come back with a firmer will to pursue the Tao. An Exin nodded slightly upon hearing this. Master, actually, I'm thinking about whether to guide the disciples to open up their own worlds. This way, they won't need to go out and can experience the red dust in their own worlds. An Xin asked hesitantly. Zizai immortals were not yet capable of creating real worlds, but at least it served as a goal. Guan answered, no need to guide them. They don't need hope. Pursuing immortal cultivation and seeking the Tao is a process of self-exploration. Their choices are theirs to bear. You must not become entangled in cause and effect. An Xin found this reasonable and gave up the idea. She had no other questions, saluted Guan, and continued her discussion with Shenzhen. Guan did not disturb them, nor was he interested in listening. He returned to his room to read. During his recent trip to the human world, he had acquired several intriguing books, which he planned to savor overnight. In the brilliant starry sky, floating islands adorned with 7-colored clouds were surrounded by manifesting destiny, turning into dragons that soared continuously. This was the misty immortal court. Tian Hao stood on a roof ridge wearing a white robe with gold embroidery, overlooking the grand vista of the misty immortal court. His brows were slightly furrowed, his eyes complex. Millions of years had passed, and Tian Hao's momentum was even more imposing. Strands of chi force coiled around him, displaying the demeanor of the Son of Heaven perfectly. Who am I exactly? Tian Hao muttered to himself. He had already recalled memories of his past life as an Hao, and his entire life floated within his mind, making him all the more grateful to Guan. Now, though far from the celestial spirit great world and carrying a mission, he couldn't easily return to repay his debt. Hence, he thought more about himself. He realized that an Hao was just one identity from his many past lives, with larger hidden connections of cause and effect, and a terrifying power deeply embedded within him. He looked up, his gaze seemingly piercing through the top of the universe. A figure appeared beside him, a white-haired elder in a yellow robe, tall and straight, standing beside him with equal momentum. Master, I seem to have found my destiny. Tian Hao spoke softly, his gaze fixed upwards. The elder stroked his beard and smiled. Your destiny is for you to find, but many things can't just be thought about. You need to see them for yourself. Tian Hao glanced at him and asked, Can I go to the celestial court now? If you truly face punishment, I doubt even your sheer luck will let you escape Kangshan's scrutiny. What do you think? The elder replied with a cheerful smile. Upon hearing this, a subtle change occurred in Tian Hao's eyes. He fell into an inner struggle. Now that the contest for the Son of Heaven is about to begin, though the misty immortal court is not within the 3,000 great worlds, it would still be implicated. You should leave. When the sons of heaven meet, destiny patterns will appear, forcibly returning you to your origin and wiping out your current will. The elder continued, his tone relaxed, as if discussing a trivial matter. Tian Hao was silent for a moment, then took a deep breath, turning to the elder, Master, if I regain my identity as the Son of Heaven and forget past kindness, won't it be unfair to you? The elder shook his head with a laugh. You're not my only disciple. Furthermore, being able to have the Son of Heaven as my disciple is a great honor for me beyond 3 lifetimes. For some reason, Tian Hao felt a bit disappointed in his heart upon hearing these words. He thought of Guan. That master would never say such things, at least not diminishing the stature of being a master. But he could also understand his current master's perspective. The entire misty immortal court prided itself on attaining immortal positions in the celestial court, and he was the Son of Heaven. Naturally, they would flatter him. Perhaps it was truly time to leave. Since the spread of Tian Hao's identity as the Son of Heaven, he could clearly feel the overly enthusiastic attitudes around him, so passionate it felt unreal, making him want to escape. In that case, I shall go to the celestial court to face my true destiny, Tian Hao said with a firm voice, looking at the elder. He wanted to understand which Son of Heaven he truly was and what kind of past he had. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 745. Lifespan of 10 quadrillion years, profound abyss ancient tree. The struggle of the Son of Heaven draws closer to the 3,000 great worlds, and for all living beings, the most apparent sign is the increase in mythical stories. Immortal gods are no longer just ethereal legends. In each great thousand world beyond the heavens, grand opportunities continuously appear, bringing boundless hope to the cultivators of the 3,000 great worlds. The immortal god's concept of time differs from that of mortal spirits. Even in the preparation stage, millions of years do not seem long. Time flies by. Millions of years turn a page in the giant book of time. More and more immortal gods begin to descend into the 3,000 great worlds. The world of the celestial spirit great world starts to become turbulent, not because of the struggle for the Son of Heaven, but due to the 9 major sects suppressing the demon emperor, causing upheaval in the demon race. On this day, deep in the sea, within the hidden spirit palace, Guan was picking medicinal herbs when his actions suddenly paused. Your lifespan has broken through the 10 trillion year mark for the first time. A random upgrade to lifespan functions will now commence. Your lifespan reincarnation function has been upgraded. Lifespan reincarnation upgraded successfully. Lifespan reincarnation. Perform reincarnation evolution, which will reflect in reality. Each session consumes 1 billion years of lifespan. All memories obtained during reincarnation will transmit into your mind as if experienced firsthand. There is no time limit to reincarnation evolution. It depends entirely on the choices made during causality. You can choose to reincarnate into the past, present, or future, or select a prior reincarnation body to reincarnate again. All reincarnations will retain lifespan evolution abilities, and merging memories with reality will take just an hour. Looking at the series of prompts before him, Guan squinted slightly. The consumption for lifespan reincarnation rising from 10 million to 1 billion years seems substantial, yet the actual content feels worth it. Choosing independently among the past, present, and future can circumvent many troubles, and selecting a prior reincarnation body for a new reincarnation can yield even more gains. For someone like Yang Xian, whose talent and comprehension are exceedingly high, if he reached the Xian Qi primordial immortal realm, the fortune he would bring to Guan is far beyond what a billion-year lifespan evolution could offer. Of course, opening a new reincarnation would also generate more anticipation. Given his current lifespan, consuming 1 billion years of lifespan is no concern for Guan. Guan continued to pick medicinal herbs, preparing to initiate a lifespan reincarnation session after his current task, opting for a new reincarnation body rather than a previous one. To him, each new reincarnated life was akin to an epic and vast novel. Having not started a new one for a while, he was indeed feeling nostalgic. As for the causality brought by lifespan reincarnation, he now took it lightly, accepting or ignoring it at will, confident in facing any resultant effects. Continuous cultivation, striving for the summit of the great Tao, was not meant for servitude to all living beings. He had no desire to care for every world. Protecting his surroundings sufficiently was enough to live happily and freely. Thinking this way, perhaps immortal gods are too free, hence neglectful of all living beings? Guan suddenly considered this but then thought it over and found it not entirely true. The immortal gods need the worship of all living beings. The celestial Tao destiny requires the faith of all beings, but he did not need it. Even when creating the primordial Tao Emperor Fortune, he did not require the faith and offerings of cultivators. His creations were more driven by personal interest. After a while, seeing that Guan had finished picking the herbs, the deep sea dragon carp, who had been waiting by his side, approached. Having followed Guan for over 9 million years, the young and naive fish was now a venerable figure with the poise of an enlightened grandmaster. Occasionally, it would venture out to explore the world, gathering knowledge for future opportunities, something Guan permitted, not wanting to confine it here forever. The deep sea dragon carp would go out but never stay away for long, leaving avatars to manage the hidden spirit palace's various medicine gardens without mishap. "Master, have you heard about the demon emperor?" the deep sea dragon carp asked cautiously. Guan asked offhandedly, "I've heard. What of it?" He began selecting herbs to bring back. Although he did not need medicinal herbs, the Wushiji disciple did, and his Tao fruit universe already had a massive stock of elixirs. Since cultivating herbs in the Tao fruit universe would drain his mana, not lifespan, he had no desire to cultivate it. For now, he used it only for storage. Don't you think the 9 major sects are too despicable? It's not because impartial to our demon race, but the demon emperor is a leader admired even by humans. He advocates for peaceful coexistence among all races, sharing the Tao and even teaching human cultivators, saving those in distress. Such a demon was oppressed by the righteous Taoist sects for a feeble reason. The reason was apparently that the demon emperor's disciple killed one of their true disciples, and when negotiations failed, they had no choice but to wage war against the demon emperor. How absurd! The deep sea dragon carp's tone grew indignant as it spoke. Guan smiled and said, "Indeed absurd, but what good is telling me? Do you expect me to uphold justice for the demon emperor?" The deep sea dragon carp quickly shook its head, saying, "How could I dare think such a thing? It's just that the demon emperor seems promising. Maybe you could save him and bring him to the hidden spirit palace?" Sar the Ovalfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Even the sea demons admired the demon emperor's deeds. He not only saved people but demons. Before becoming the demon emperor, he roamed the world, eradicating evil and helping the weak. These stories were well known among the demon race, and the deep sea dragon carp, having heard many, also grew fond of him. "I've never met him, so how could I accept him? You haven't genuinely ventured into the world. How can you understand a person from hearsay? Go out and train. You can even look for the demon emperor, but don't think of saving him." Guan chuckled softly. He too was quite pleased with the demon emperor. 2 million years ago, Guan had saved the demon before he became the demon emperor, speaking a few words that the demon held dear for a lifetime, practicing them faithfully till today, which was rare. Of course, pleased or not, it was not enough for Guan to intervene. From his perspective, the demon emperor would break free eventually, reaching greater realms and firmly establishing himself in the celestial spirit great world. The current tribulation was but a chapter in the demon emperor's life, one that he would overcome. The deep sea dragon carp hesitated, truly wanting to seek out the demon emperor. "Alright, I'm leaving. Think it over. If you want to go, leave an avatar and do not need to inform me." With these words, Guan vanished, leaving the deep sea dragon carp in contemplation. Elsewhere, Guan arrived at a small island near the immortal Seeking Island. Sitting on a reef, he faced the sea breeze and began his lifespan reincarnation. You have consumed 1 billion years of lifespan to start a reincarnation evolution. Please choose to reincarnate to either the past, present, or future. The past. Going to the past might reveal insights about the ancient celestial court, gathering useful information for the present. Reincarnating to the future offered unreliable intelligence, serving only cultivation and Tao enlightenment purposes. Would you like to select a previous reincarnation body for rebirth? Connecting to the Tao rules. Searching for reincarnation heavens and earth. You have the following options, choose 1. Ling Mountain 2. Endless Jade Pool 3. Profound Abyss Divine Pool. These places all appeared imposing. Ling Mountain's grandeur was evident even to Guan, harboring Daoyuo immortals. However, Guan did not wish to become a monk. His gaze fell on the profound Abyss Divine Pool, which lay in the underworld, the land of reincarnation. He had never visited the underworld, but he saw its immense expanse, larger than all 3,000 great worlds combined. The underworld was not fully covered by celestial Tao destiny, proving the strength of the profound Abyss Divine Pool. You have chosen to reincarnate into the profound Abyss Divine Pool. This reincarnation will fully retain lifespan's seizing and evolution abilities. Reincarnation evolution begins. Year 1, you are born in the other shore heaven as a profound abyss fruit on the profound abyss ancient tree. At 17, a ghost immortal comes to the profound abyss ancient tree for enlightenment, and you observe his actions with curiosity. At 102, you watch this ghost immortal cultivate divine skills, silently noting all his techniques. At 227, the ghost immortal departs, and you gradually comprehend the chi absorption technique. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Do you agree? Oh. You rejected its request, but it persisted, and you couldn't drive it away. You learned its name, it called itself Ghost Sanling. After some conflict, you decided to name yourself Gu Xianyu since you were born from the profound abyss ancient tree. At the age of 13,315, you entered Other Shore City with Ghost Sanling. In the same year, you met a cultivator named Zhu Tian Daoist, who claimed to be from Other Shore Heaven. He saw through your essence as a profound abyss fruit and wanted to bring you to Other Shore Heaven for cultivation. Do you agree? Guan thought that someone who could discern his essence would not be someone he could resist. If they bore ill intentions, refusing would only cause trouble. Besides, Gu Xianyu needed Taoist technique to truly start immortal cultivation. Having lived for over 10,000 years, Gu Xianyu had not yet seized any lifespan. Other Shore Heaven appeared peaceful, indicating a strong foundation. However, in Gu An's time, there was no power named Other Shore Heaven. Even observing the underworld now, he couldn't see Other Shore Heaven. This suggests Other Shore Heaven might perish. That would be good. After Gu Xianyu's cultivation succeeds and he departs, if Other Shore Heaven then perishes, many causes and effects could be hidden. Of course, the demise of Other Shore Heaven might relate to Gu Xianyu. Time would tell. You accepted Zhu Tian Daoist's invitation and followed him to Other Shore Heaven with Ghost Sanling. Along the way, you gained much knowledge and looked forward to your new life. Upon entering the Chi Fortune Dojo in Other Shore Heaven, Zhu Tian Daoist took you to meet the Other Shore Emperor. Apparently, upon your birth, the Other Shore Emperor foresaw your connection and decided to personally take you as a disciple. At the age of 13,316, the Other Shore Emperor taught you the Other Shore Heavenly God skill, saying it was the Taoist technique most suited for you. The subsequent prompts were all about cultivation. Not only Gu Xianyu but also Ghost Sanlang was cultivating. The Other Shore Emperor also taught it a divine skill, making it swear eternal servitude to Gu Xianyu. Gu felt a sense of gratitude. His reincarnation body always found good mentors. For now, the Other Shore Emperor seemed sincere. If he wanted the profound abyss fruit, there was no need for such elaborate effort. This cultivation lasted for 100,000 years. After 100,000 years, Gu Xianyu had reached the profound Yuan-free immortal realm. That year, the Other Shore Emperor sent Gu Xianyu to train at the 9-in Divine Mansion, accompanied by other disciples from Other Shore Heaven. Other Shore Heaven and 9 In Divine Mansion were neighboring underworld Tao courts with a cordial relationship, often exchanging disciples to foster communication. When they arrived at the 9 In Divine Mansion, no mishaps occurred, leaving Gu-in without choices to make. Chapter 747. 9 Heavens True Dragon Chi Make a Move Directly? S.E.A. The Novel Fire. N.E*T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Gu-in raised an eyebrow slightly. From just a few words, he could sense the changes in Gu Xian. Gu Xian was not like this before. He wouldn't even fight, let alone kill. After killing 3 9 In Divine Mansion disciples again, Gu Xian chose to leave and cultivate in another place. His skill broke through in the same year, obviously using his lifespan evolution ability. It seems Gu Xian is becoming obsessed with the ability to evolve his lifespan. In the subsequent years, beings from the 9 In Divine Mansion came to investigate the deaths of those 2 disciples constantly. As long as Gu Xian heard their questions, he would kill them directly. There were even times when people knelt and begged for his mercy. Although Gu-in did not agree with his change, it had come to this, and killing was the only option left. Gu Xian had thoroughly opposed the 9 In Divine Mansion. By the time Gu-in had a choice, he had already killed more than 10 disciples of the 9 In Divine Mansion. Even if he chose to show mercy then, the 9 In Divine Mansion would not have spared him. It looked like Gu Xian was set to become the next Long Zhan, but countless times stronger. Gu-in carefully monitored the prompts. If Gu Xian's killing spree continued, he would have to find a way to end his life. But unfortunately, all he could do was choose yes or no. He couldn't decide Gu Xian's life and death directly. Fortunately, Gu Xian was not as evil as he had imagined. At the age of 116,722, you encountered a group of people being pursued by evil spirits. You chose to save them, and later learned from them about another half of the world. You were filled with curiosity about the mortal world, so you left the underworld with them. At the age of 116,726, you arrived at the Taoyuan Great World of the mortal world, and at the invitation of those people, you visited the Erosion Moon sect. At the age of 116,727, the female cultivator Yen Yueshi you saved in the underworld confessed to you, hoping to marry you. Do you accept? Already extreme and still in love? If something happened to this female cultivator named Yen Yueshi, wouldn't Gu Xian go mad? For the sake of all living beings, Gu-in refused this marriage on behalf of Gu Xian. You refused Yen Yuex's confession. Yen Yueshi begged bitterly, but you were unmoved. Finally, Yen Yueshi, in a rage, cursed you venomously, saying you humiliated her and she would repay you tenfold. Crazy. Rejecting you is humiliating you? Why don't you remember the favor of saving your life? Gu-in laughed, thinking that this woman named Yen Yueshi was no good. So, Gu Xian agreed to Taihao's invitation and went with him to the 9 In Divine Mansion. This made Taihao very happy, and they even became sworn brothers. They are all restless souls. Gu-in sighed in his heart, as if foreseeing the tragedy. After all, the 9 In Divine Mansion still ruled the land of reincarnation in the underworld, while the other shore heaven had ceased to exist. At the age of 501,372, you and Taihao reached the reincarnation heaven pool of the 9 In Divine Mansion. You encountered the Taiyin reverse dragon guarding the pool. Taihao made the first move, and you had to assist. Eventually, you killed the Taiyin reverse dragon and obtained the reincarnation heaven lotus in the pool. At the age of 501,373, the 9 In Divine Mansion sensed your disturbance and sent a large number of disciples to besiege you. It was only then you realized Taihao's true strength far exceeded yours. After a great battle, Taihao took you and escaped the reincarnation heaven pool, reaching the other side of the underworld, where you rested beneath a yin tree. At the age of 501,374, Taihao insisted on teaching you a divine skill called 9 Heavens True Dragon Chi. You mastered it in the same year, surprising Taihao greatly. At the age of 501,380, you and Taihao attacked the 9 Divine Mansion again, encountering them forging billions of souls into 6 paths ghost artifacts. Displeased, you intervened, leading to a great battle. During the battle, you chose to break through, and a massive lightning from the Great Tao descended upon the 9 Divine Mansion. You reached the Taiching Golden Immortal Realm but also attracted the strongest of the 9 Divine Mansion. Despite you and Taihao's best efforts, you were subdued under a great array. At the critical moment, a powerful mana transported you away. You fell into a coma, and upon waking, you were shocked to discover the powerful being who saved you and your brother was your master, the Other Shore Emperor. The Other Shore Emperor revealed that the 9 Divine Mansion had committed countless atrocities, disrupting the 6 Paths order. The Other Shore Heaven decided to overthrow the 9 Divine Mansion's rule. He had already appealed to the Zhangtian, requesting help from immortal gods. Before the immortal gods arrived, he hoped you and Taihao would cultivate first and not act rashly. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 748. Against the immortal gods. After being saved by the Other Shore Emperor, Gu Xian and Taihao no longer ventured out, focusing on their cultivation steadfastly. However, when it involved immortal gods, Guan always felt things wouldn't be simple and surely wouldn't go smoothly. The facts were as he anticipated. Gu Xian and Taihao cultivated for 1,000 years, and then immortal gods descended upon the land of reincarnation. At the age of 52,392, immortal gods descended upon the land of reincarnation. The Other Shore Emperor led you and Taihao to invade the 9 Divine Mansion. As the battle commenced, disciples from Other Shore Heaven also joined in, causing the 9 Divine Mansion to fall into a passive state. You began a killing spree, continuously enhancing your comprehension of the Other Shore Heavenly God skill. In the same year, the immortal gods suddenly turned against you, joining forces with the 9 Divine Mansion to besiege Other Shore Heaven. Before your master, the Other Shore Emperor, died, he sent you and Taihao away. You and Taihao fell into reincarnation. You landed in a mortal world, regaining consciousness and vowing to avenge the immortal gods. The immortal gods turned against them, indicating it was a plot against Other Shore Heaven. Alternatively, it could be that the 9 Divine Mansion had convinced the Celestial Court during the millennium that the Other Shore Emperor was waiting. Although Gu Xian was involved in the downfall of Other Shore Heaven, it wasn't due to him. It was the result of the power struggle between the two forces with the Celestial Court. Guan had only one feeling after reading it. Weakness is the original sin. The powerful immortal gods showed no mercy, changing their stance without hesitation. Stimulated by this, Gu Xian began to crazily seek power. He destroyed the temples and shrines of immortal gods wherever he went, killing anyone who dared to obstruct him. This naturally led to him attracting the enmity of celestial gods within a few hundred years. Now, no celestial god could match him. His path was paved with slaughter, purely out of revenge, which also offered Guan a choice. Gu Xian started traveling to all heavens and myriad realms, targeting celestial gods specifically, as they were the easiest immortal gods for him to find. They existed in every great thousand world. The title of Immortal Slayer began to spread. At the age of 99,866, you entered 9 Elements' great world for the first time and encountered a group of cultivators besieged by cosmic evil demons. You intervened to save them, and one of the female cultivators called out your name. You then realized it was Yen Yueshi, whom you had rejected back then. In the same year, your Other Shore Heavenly God skill reached a new level of achievement. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 749. All are reincarnation bodies again, the primordial emperor domain. There are indeed many emperor clans in the primordial emperor domain. Now Guan can see the primordial emperor domain clearly. It indeed has deep foundations, but there are no supreme experts in the primordial emperor domain. Not to mention Xian Qi primordial immortal, even the number of Dao extreme Daoyuo immortals is less than 5. Of course, possessing Dao extreme Daoyuo immortals alone is enough to prove the strength of the primordial emperor domain. After exterminating the Donglan emperor clan, Gu Xianyu and Taihao began to travel through the primordial emperor domain. The days that followed were relatively peaceful, as the primordial emperor domain had no celestial gods to guard it, so Gu Xianyu didn't go on a killing spree. In the subsequent tips, Guan watched them travel around, make many friends, and continuously encounter female cultivators and female demons showing goodwill towards them. Gu Xianyu refused, and Taihao also refused, as if it were a competition. After experiencing so much, the relationship between the two grew closer. After leaving the primordial emperor domain, they still traveled together, traversing the heavens, and more names of the great thousand worlds appeared in the tips. Gu Zuanyus' realm also stagnated. To be precise, it returned to a normal rate of becoming stronger, remaining in the Miaojin Daoyuo immortal realm for a long time. The two went to the Dao fields of great powers to listen to Dao, benefiting immensely, and Taihao even created new divine skills, which he passed on to Gu Xianyu. Gu Xianyu wasn't as creative as Taihao. He invested his lifespan evolution into the other shore heavenly god skill and profound abyss yin and yang protection. The 9 heavens true dragon chi also improved, but its frequency in the tips was clearly lower than the other two. At this rate it's hard to die. While rejecting a Miaojin Daoyuo immortal female expert for Gu Xianyu, Guan sighed. The sea breeze blew gently, and sitting on the reef, he couldn't help but stretch lazily. The smoothness of this life made him feel somewhat bored, but he could only wait. The age in the tips rapidly increased, and even after tens of millions of years, Gu Xianyu did not encounter any sieges by immortal gods. However, his cultivation realm had reached the Dao extreme Daoyuo immortal. He was inseparable from Taihao, going everywhere together. They visited the endless Dao mountain to listen to the Dao, gaining great fame and receiving exalted titles from the ancient great powers of the endless Dao mountain, being called the 2 great saints of the great Dao. CTH Novelfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Sin appeared out of thin air before Guan. He excitedly said, "Master, I've created a divine skill, please take a look and evaluate it." As he spoke, he raised his right hand. Small vines grew from his palm, quickly forming a tree, then branching and leafing out. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 751. The Immortal Arrives. Born for the destiny. Looking at the small tree in Sin's hand, Guan could feel a formidable curse power contained within the tree, eerily similar to the malevolent force of the desperate celestial tomb. If one were to be ensnared by the tree's vines, their mana would dissipate. Even if one could manage to escape, they would be plagued by misfortune for the rest of their life. Guan chuckled softly. Not bad, but you must be careful of being backfired by this kind of power. Sin nodded, then began to speak excitedly, describing the inspiration and future plans for this divine skill. In Gu Xian's long life, he had done many things, but never took on a disciple. After merging with his memories, Facing his disciple again, he felt a sense of novelty. As he regarded sin, he suddenly understood the meaning of reincarnation. To the great Tao, reincarnation was of little help, but to those beings with regrets in their hearts, reincarnation was hope. The existence of the path of reincarnation made the world constructed by the great Tao not just one of birth and destruction. Having figured this out, Guan no longer dwelled on the matter. Compared to such questions, there were many other things worth pondering. What shall I do tomorrow? Should I listen to music, or indulge in wine and pleasure? Never mind, I'll combine both. In the darkness, a figure appeared out of thin air, his entire body shining with the strong light of the heavenly Tao, clad in heavy silver armor and wrapped in a long golden scarf, looking extraordinarily divine. He lowered his eyes, his expression cold and indifferent, and within his eyes, specks of starlight appeared, seemingly containing two universes. Indeed, full of life, but alas, everything shall be reshaped. The happiness, pain, hatred, and hope you now possess will become meaningless, yet seeing the presence of immortal gods in one's lifetime is fortunate enough, a life not lived in vain. The silver armor immortal god muttered to himself as he raised his right hand, and a golden scroll appeared in his hand, unfolding it with his left hand. In an instant, the scroll burst forth with brilliant golden light, dazzling like the sun, illuminating the darkness. Strands of golden energy gushed out, increasingly faster, countless in number, all flying toward the darkness below, forming a magnificent river of golden chi. At the same time, deep within the void of the 3,000 great worlds emerged innumerable golden chi, quickly growing larger, surging toward the heavens and the earth of various realms. Guan, standing side by side with Xiaolon, slightly raised his eyes, and through the celestial spirit great world, he saw the conditions of the other great thousand worlds. The fourth-generation disciples could then accept a second disciple, which made the disciples even happier. They were filled with emotions for the beginningless and naturally hoped it would grow stronger. Beneath the beginningless was the nine-spirit continent, a land rich in people and resources. With a call to arms, many would kneel before the dojo. The beginningless didn't lack sources of talent, but it lacked Guan's approval. As evening approached, Guan swayed the wine jug, gazing at the sunset. His eyes reflected an earth-shattering battle, one great thousand world invading another. Continuous streams of living beings crossed the void, never stopping even if they were torn to pieces. Sar the Nefire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Master, I've written a roster recording all the disciples. Would you like to take a look? An Xan came to Guan's side and asked softly. Guan had restrictions on the disciples accepted by the third and fourth generation disciples, but not on the second generation disciples. Now, the number of disciples in the beginningless had exceeded 150, even the youngest disciple had grown up and could stand alone if they went out. Of course, to leave the beginningless, one must at least cultivate to the Zizai immortal realm. Guan accepted the roster, opened it with one hand, and reviewed it carefully. He mainly focused on Nzin's writing, from which he could see the depth of her Tao intent and her mood while writing. Master, if the struggle for the Son of Heaven affects the celestial spirit great world, can the disciples be given a chance to train? An Xen saw that Guan was in a good mood today, so she smiled and asked softly. Cultivation, apart from achieving longevity, was essentially about becoming stronger than others. After practicing for millions of years, only sparring with fellow sect members had become tedious for the disciples. They also wanted to vanquish demons and save all living beings, just like the stories Guan wrote in his books. An Xian also wanted to do something to put her learning to use. All right, you can arrange it then. Guan glanced at an Xan, smiling. His response made an Xian uneasy, fearing that Guan might be angry. Master, if you don't want us to do this, we can refrain from going out. An Xian quickly expressed her intentions. Guwen smiled helplessly and said, I wouldn't play mind games with you all. Since I've agreed, it means I truly consent. Hearing this, an Exen finally breathed a sigh of relief. She didn't know why, but over the past million years, she felt Master had become more and more dignified. Although he still smiled, an extraordinary aura of transcendence brought her increasing pressure with each passing day. If she felt this way, what more the other disciples? Guwen heard her thoughts but did not explain. Nowadays, he no longer cared about what others thought. Even if they were nervous facing him, so what?